It's election night in America. Voters are having their say, your say, and the countdown is on to the very first exit polls and the first results.
All across the USA, from Arizona to Pennsylvania, Michigan to Georgia, and battlegrounds in between. The final hours of voting are underway in one of the closest and most consequential presidential races ever.
The American people are exhausted with his gaslighting. Enough!
Kamala, you've done a horrible job as vice president. You're fired.
After a year of stunning twists and turns, the time to choose is here.
We will win, win, win.
We will win!
Tonight, an historic and unpredictable election. Vice President Kamala Harris, aiming to be the first woman and first woman of color to serve in the Oval Office after replacing President Biden as their party's choice late in the campaign.
It is my pledge to you that I will always fight for all the American people.
Former President Donald Trump, hoping to become only the second ex-commander-in-chief to return to the White House, even after his unprecedented criminal indictments and convictions.
We will never give up. We will never back down. And we will never, ever, ever, ever surrender.
2 tickets with dramatically different visions for the country.
Why don't we have a border? Because Kamala Harris refuses to do her damn job.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. His plan is for what's good for Donald Trump.
The entire world in suspense, waiting for the final verdict of voters.
November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country.
Who will win and when?
Are you ready to make your voices heard?
This is CNN's coverage of Election Night in America, the race for the White House, the campaign for Congress, and the challenges facing the nation.
Do we believe in the promise of America?
We will make America great again.
There's never been an election like this one, and anything is possible until the last vote.
Democracy in action as you see voters casting ballots in Arizona as well as in Wisconsin and, of course, all across the nation with the power of the presidency and control of Congress on the line. Welcome to CNN's live coverage of Election Night in America. I'm Jake Tapper. Right now, Americans are making a monumental decision, choosing either Vice President Kamala Harris or former President Donald Trump to lead the country through the next 4 years. We'll soon get some early clues about what voters are thinking when we roll out our first exit poll results about an hour from now, and that will help set the stage for the battle ahead, the all-important race to 270, the number of electoral votes needed to win the White House. All 50 states play a role in getting one candidate or the other to hit that magic number. But this election is expected to come down to 7 crucial competitive battlegrounds that we will be watching very closely in the hours and days ahead. Georgia is the first key race of the night when voting ends there at 7 p.m. Eastern. Vice President Harris in a tough fight for the state that Democrats flipped from red to blue 4 years ago. A half hour after that, North Carolina is in the spotlight. Former President Trump is on defense in this swing state that he narrowly won in both 2020 and 2016. Then at 8 Eastern, all eyes are on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, one of the traditional blue wall battlegrounds, seen as critical for Democrats to win the presidency. Then at 9 Eastern, Michigan and Wisconsin are up for grabs, 2 more of those blue wall states, where the Harris-Trump contest is close and bitterly contested. Then a third pivotal swing state is on the line at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's Arizona, making that a very important hour. And there's one more battleground to watch, Nevada. Voting ends there at 10 p.m. Eastern as we get deeper into the night and the fight for electoral votes. Aaron Burnett and our battleground correspondents are going to give us updates on turnout and vote counting in those crucial swing states, along with Pamela Brown at the voting desk. John King is at his post at the Magic Wall, where he will be mapping out the votes and tracking the trends all night long. David Chalian is crunching our exit poll numbers and will bring us the very first results imminently. Boris Sanchez is following the balance of power in Congress, with 34 Senate seats and all 435 House seats up for grabs. Our political team is going to break it all down. Adi Cornish, Dana Bash, and Chris Wallace are here. And Anderson Cooper is with David Axelrod, Van Jones, Alyssa Farah-Griffin, and David Urban. Plus, of course, we have correspondents covering the presidential candidates. Let's go right now to Abby Phillip at Harris campaign headquarters at the vice president's alma mater, Howard University, here in Washington, D.C. Abby, what is the mindset right now from the Harris campaign as results start to come in some places? It is election night in America. These are live pictures from a polling place near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, one of the 7 battleground states expected to ultimately decide who becomes the 47th president of these United States. I'm Jake Tapper in the CNN Election Center. The very first presidential votes of 2024 are about to be posted. The American people deciding whether to elevate Vice President Kamala Harris to the top job or return former President Donald Trump to the White House. We're getting closer to the first major round of poll closings and our first chance to make projections. That will be about an hour from now. 60 of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency will be on the line at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's when all voting ends in Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia. Some polling places in the Eastern time zone in Indiana and Kentucky are actually closing right now, and we expect early results from those 2 states at any moment. Georgia is the first crucial battleground state on our radar this evening. The state was pivotal in the Democrats' 2020 presidential victory, and Georgia's 16 electoral votes could be decisive in this election as well. Our correspondents are tracking Election Day voting in all the top swing states and will be on the scene as the first vote counts are reported. Our correspondents are working their sources inside the Harris and Trump campaigns. Let's check in with Abby Phillip, who is at Harris headquarters at Howard University here in Washington, D.C. And Abby, what are you hearing from the campaign at this hour? We have a key race alert on the very first presidential votes of 2024. Let's take a look. In Kentucky, Donald Trump is in the lead with 64.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris bringing up the rear with 34% of the vote. Donald Trump is 13,231 votes ahead of Harris. That's with 2% of the estimated vote in from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. In the state of Indiana, Donald Trump in the lead there as well, 71.8% to Kamala Harris's 26.8%. He's 1,604 votes in the lead. That's just a few votes there out of Indiana and Kentucky. Over to John King now. John, what are you watching for as these first actual votes come in from Indiana and Kentucky? And we're back. We have another key race alert for you. More votes coming in from the states of Indiana and Kentucky. In Indiana, Donald Trump is in the lead, 62.5% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 36.4% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 43,417 vote lead. That's with an estimated 5% of the vote in. In the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Donald Trump in the lead there as well, with 65.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 32.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 17,717 vote lead. That's with an estimated 3% of the vote. Over to John King. John, what stands out to you as these first votes come in? And we're standing by for the first big round of poll closing coming up at the top of the hour. But right now, more early votes are coming in. We have a key race alert. Let's take a look at the actual votes here from Indiana. Donald Trump in the lead, 58.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris in second place, 40.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 53,428 vote lead. That's with 10% of the estimated vote in from the state of Indiana. On to Commonwealth Kentucky. Donald Trump in the lead there, 66.4% of the vote. Kamala Harris in second there with 32.4% of the vote. Donald Trump up there. His lead is 31,523 votes. That's with 4% of the estimated vote in. We're about to get our first chance to make projections in this historic race for the White House. We're counting down to the top of the hour when voting ends in 6 states and a total of 60 electoral votes are up for grabs. Remember, it takes 270 electoral votes to win the election. All polling places are scheduled to close just minutes from now in Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're closely watching Georgia. That is the first of 7 high-stakes presidential battlegrounds on the line tonight. Kamala Harris trying hard to make Georgia stay blue after President Biden flipped it 4 years ago. Donald Trump, of course, eager to win Georgia back. That's, of course, a state where he has been criminally charged with trying to overturn his 2020 election loss in that state. All right, and we are just moments away from the first big round of poll closings. Voting's about to end in 6 states, 6 with a total of 60 electoral votes at stake. Keep an eye on the pivotal battleground of Georgia, as most voting is ending there right now. And CNN can bring you a projection now. CNN projects that Kentucky goes to Donald Trump. Donald Trump will win the Commonwealth of Kentucky with its 8 electoral votes. And CNN can also project that Vermont will go to Kamala Harris with its 3 electoral votes. Kamala Harris wins the state of Vermont. It is too early to project in Georgia, Indiana, South Carolina, and Virginia. Let's take a look at the electoral map now to see where the candidates stand. 270 electoral votes are needed to win. Donald Trump has 8. Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes. Let's bring you a key race alert now. Indiana. Donald Trump in the lead there with 60.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 38.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has an 86,829 vote lead. That's with an estimated 13% of the vote in. Let's go to John King now at the Magic Wall. John? And we can bring you another CNN projection. CNN projects that Indiana will go to Donald Trump. Indiana, with its 11 electoral votes, will go to Donald Trump. Let's look at the electoral map now to see where the candidates stack up. Remember, 270 needed to win. Donald Trump has 19 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes. They both still have a lot of electoral votes to get up to 270. Let's do a key race alert for you now. In Florida, Donald Trump is in the lead with 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.7% of the vote. Donald Trump has a 138,912 vote lead. That just went up, a 224,914 vote lead. The votes are coming in as I do this. That's with more than a third, 35% of the estimated vote in from Florida, with its big fat packet of 30 electoral votes. The Commonwealth of Virginia, slightly more competitive. Donald Trump in the lead right now with 58.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 40.6% of the vote. That's only with a handful of votes in as of right now, about 1,500 votes. As we stand by for results from the crucial state of Georgia, we are counting down to the end of voting in the battleground state of North Carolina. This historic election night is just getting started. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we're standing by for the end of voting in yet another crucial battleground state. Let's check the fight for the electoral vote so far. Donald Trump has 19 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes, 270 electoral votes needed to win. And now we have a key race alert. In the state of Georgia, Donald Trump is in the lead with 51% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48.5% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 4,556 vote lead. That's with only an estimated 3% of the vote in. The polls just closed at 7. In the state of Florida, Donald Trump in the lead, his new home state, 53.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 45.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a healthy 438,912 vote lead. That's with half of the vote in, 50% of the estimated vote. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Donald Trump in the lead there with 58.5% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 40.5% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 2,871 vote lead. Still a lot of votes to come in from the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're coming up on another critical round of poll closings in the presidential race at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That's just minutes from now. 37 of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House are at stake when voting ends in North Carolina and Ohio and West Virginia. North Carolina is one of the 7 crucial presidential battlegrounds tonight, as its changing demographics have made it more competitive for Democrats than in some past elections. Kamala Harris is in a heated battle right now with Donald Trump in North Carolina after he won that state in both of his previous presidential campaigns, narrowly last time. Abby Phillip has some new information from the Harris campaign headquarters at Howard University. Abby, tell us more. All right, and we're coming up on another critical round of poll closings in the Harris-Trump presidential race just moments from now. That's when voting ends in the battleground state of North Carolina, as well as in Ohio and West Virginia. A total of 37 electoral votes are up for grabs right now. And CNN can make a projection that Donald Trump will win the state of West Virginia. West Virginia and its 4 electoral votes going to Donald Trump. Too early to call, too early to make a projection in battleground North Carolina with its 16 electoral votes, or in Ohio with its 17 electoral votes. Let's take a look at the electoral map at this hour now that we've called a state for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has 23 electoral votes in the lead of Kamala Harris, who has 3 electoral votes. 270 electoral votes are needed to win the race. Both are far from that. Let's bring you a key race alert now in the battleground state of Georgia. Donald Trump in the lead with 58.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 41.4% of the vote. Donald Trump, 69,586 votes ahead. That's with only an estimated 8% of the vote in the state of Georgia. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Donald Trump in the lead there with 49.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48.8% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 948 vote lead. Only 2% of the vote has come in from the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have 2 more states to show you now. Florida, Donald Trump in the lead there with 53.5% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 45.5% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 586,779 vote lead. That's with most of the vote in, a majority of the vote, 64% of the vote in the state of Florida with its 30 electoral votes. In New Hampshire, Kamala Harris in the lead there with 58.7% of the vote. Donald Trump has 40.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has a 5,513 vote lead. That's with only an estimated 4% of the vote. John King at the Magic Wall. What are you looking at? All right, now to Boris Sanchez, who was our first projection of the night in the fight for control of the U.S. Senate. Boris.
Jake, a major projection to bring you. In their quest to take control of the U.S. Senate, Republicans have their first expected pickup, and it comes from West Virginia. A former 2-term governor, Jim Justice, the Republican in this race, is projected to defeat the mayor of Wheeling, West Virginia, Glenn Elliott. Justice, a former Democrat, now expected to take control of the seat held by retiring Democrat-turned-independent Senator Joe Manchin as he now retires. Kind of gives you an idea of where West Virginia is headed politically, so this is no surprise, but it is significant for the math. Justice, a MAGA acolyte known for taking his 4-year-old English bulldog everywhere with him, it appears that Baby Dog and Justice are now headed to the U.S. Senate. So what does this mean for the magic number? Republicans started out the night needing control of 2 Democratic seats to take the upper chamber. Now that number is down to 1, and they are currently leading in one race where Democrats hold a seat. Let's get you some key race alerts now and show you exactly where that is on the map. We start with Ohio, still very early there, but Colombian-born businessman Bernie Moreno is leading Democratic incumbent Senator Sherrod Brown, seeking his 4th term, only by about 16,000 votes. Still very early, though, 3% of the vote in the state of Ohio. If you're a Democrat and you're looking at the map, you're looking for opportunities to pick up a Republican seat. One of their best opportunities in the Sunshine State of Florida. Rick Scott got elected by winning only about a 10,000 vote margin over his previous opponent back in 2018. Right now, he's 715,000 votes ahead of former Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Murkisell-Powell. Still a lot of votes to count, but this is with 60% of the vote in the state of Florida. So stepping back, looking at the raw numbers, what does this mean for the balance of power in the U.S. Senate? Democrats hold 28 seats, Republicans 40. With that one important pickup in West Virginia, 32 seats remain up for grabs, Jake. You need 51 for control of the chamber.
All right, Boris, thanks so much. Let me bring you a CNN key race alert right now. In North Carolina, Kamala Harris is in the lead with 68% of the vote. Donald Trump has 30.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris, as of this hour, has a 41,599 vote lead. That's with only an estimated 2% of the vote in from the big battleground of North Carolina with its 16 electoral votes. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead with 60.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 38.9% of the vote. Donald Trump, as of this hour, with a 109,841 vote lead. That's with an estimated 9% of the vote in from that key battleground state of Georgia and its 16 electoral votes. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Kamala Harris has 59.7% of the vote. Donald Trump, 38.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 105,065 vote lead. That's with an estimated 11% of the vote in from the Commonwealth of Virginia with its 13 electoral votes. We expect more votes to come in from key battlegrounds at any time, and we're going to soon get the first results from a third high-stakes presidential battleground, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Voting ends in the Commonwealth just a few minutes from now. We're going to talk to you on the other side of the break. Stay with us. It's 7:43 p.m. on the East Coast, and we're heading into one of the busiest hours of this election night. Here's where the race to 270 electoral votes stands right now. Donald Trump has 23 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes, both of them far from the 270 needed to win. But we have some new results to share. So here's a key race alert. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead with 62.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 36.8% of the vote. Donald Trump with a healthy 166,655 vote lead. That's with 13% of the estimated vote in. Still a lot of votes to be counted in Georgia. In battleground North Carolina, Kamala Harris has 67.5% of the vote. Donald Trump has 31.4% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 40,929 votes ahead of Donald Trump, but it's still very early. 2% of the estimated vote is in. Still a lot of votes to count in North Carolina. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Kamala Harris has 58.2% of the vote. Donald Trump has 40.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 121,029 vote lead. It's still very early, only 15% of the estimated vote in from the Commonwealth of Virginia. In Florida, Donald Trump in the lead, 54.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 44.7%. Donald Trump with a healthy 822,987 vote lead. That's with an estimated 71% of the estimated vote in from Florida. In Ohio, Donald Trump with 56.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 42.5% of the vote. Donald Trump has a 31,716 vote lead. It's still very early in Ohio, only 4% of the estimated vote in. In New Hampshire, Kamala Harris in the lead, 58.7% of the vote. Donald Trump has 40.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has a 10,020 vote lead. Still very early in New Hampshire, only 7% of the estimated vote in the Granite State. We're only minutes away from the biggest wave of poll closings in this entire presidential race. We are counting down to the top of the hour. That's 8 p.m. Eastern, when a total of 171 electoral votes are on the line. That's a huge chunk of the 270 needed to win. Voting is about to end in Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, the District of Columbia, Florida, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oklahoma, the key Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Tennessee. All eyes are on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in this hour ahead. It is one of the make or break battlegrounds up for grabs tonight, and the polling there has been 48-48 or 50-50. Kamala Harris is hoping to pull off a win in Pennsylvania, as President Biden did 4 years ago. Donald Trump aiming for a repeat of his 2016 victory there. Indeed. Voting is about to end in 16 states and the District of Columbia, the biggest round of poll closings all night A whopping 171 electoral votes at stake, including 19 in Pennsylvania, the battleground that could decide the presidential election. And let's bring you some CNN projections. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the state of Florida with its 30 electoral votes, as expected. Donald Trump, CNN projects, will win the state of Tennessee, as expected, with its 11 electoral votes. Missouri will go to Donald Trump. Missouri, as expected, will give Donald Trump 10 electoral votes. Here are two more projections for Trump. Alabama, CNN can project, will go to Donald Trump with its 9 electoral votes. And Oklahoma, CNN projects, will go to Donald Trump with its 7 electoral votes. We have some projections for Kamala Harris as well. CNN projects that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, with its 11 electoral votes, as expected, will go to Kamala Harris. CNN can project that Maryland, as expected, with its 10 electoral votes, will go to Kamala Harris. And CNN can project that the District of Columbia, with its 3 electoral votes, can go to Kamala Harris. Here are the states where the polls just closed, where we are not prepared to make a projection. They include Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. No projection in any of those states. Here is the electoral vote count at this hour. Donald Trump has 90 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 27 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. Neither of them has approached that number yet. Key race alert for you now in the big battlegrounds. North Carolina, Kamala Harris is in the lead there with 51.8% of the vote. Donald Trump has 47.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris with an 11,000 plus vote lead. That's with only 5% of the estimated vote count. It's still a lot of votes to count in North Carolina. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead with 54.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 44.6% of the vote. That's with a third of the vote in Georgia. That's 33% of the estimated vote. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Kamala Harris in the lead with 54.2% of the vote. Donald Trump has 43.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a healthy 115,000 plus vote lead. That's with a quarter of the vote counted in the Commonwealth of Virginia, 25%. In New Hampshire, Kamala Harris has 55.7% of the vote. Donald Trump has 43.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 9,517 vote lead. That's with only a tenth, 10% of the estimated vote counted in the state of New Hampshire. In Ohio, Kamala Harris in the lead there, 54.5% of the vote. Donald Trump has 44.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris has a 144,000 plus vote lead in Ohio. That's with a quarter, 25% of the estimated vote in the state of Ohio. John King? All right, John King, thanks so much. And we have a key race alert for you now. We're getting some votes in from 2 key battlegrounds. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris in the lead with 77.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has 21.5% of the vote. Harris with a 187,924 vote lead. But it is very, very early. It's only 5% of the estimated vote has been counted in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with its big fat packet of 19 electoral votes. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead with 76.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with 22.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 62,597 vote lead. Again, very, very early. Only 2% of the estimated vote in the battleground Michigan with its big packet of 15 electoral votes. John King? All right, John, let's go to Boris Sanchez now for new projections in the fight for control of the U.S. Senate. Boris?
Yeah, Jake, a handful of projections to bring you right now. All of them holds for the incumbent party. Let's start with the Sunshine State of Florida. There, incumbent Senator Rick Scott, the Republican, will defeat Democratic former Congresswoman Debbie Merkersell-Powell. Scott winning a second term in the Sunshine State. Meantime, in Tennessee, the first all-female Senate race in the volunteer state's history, incumbent Republican Marsha Blackburn will win her second term, defeating Gloria Johnson, a state lawmaker. Meantime, in Indiana, Congressman Jim Banks, he will defeat Democrat Valerie McRae, a clinical psychologist. This is for the open seat left by retiring Senator Mike Braun, who's now running for governor. Let's show you some Democratic holds beginning in the Northeast with the state of Massachusetts. There you have incumbent Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren seeking her third term in office. The former presidential candidate is expected to defeat John Deaton, a best-selling author and cryptocurrency advocate. Staying in the Northeast, another projection to bring you for Democrats in the state of Connecticut. There, Incumbent Democratic Senator Chris Murphy will win his third full term in office as he defeats Matthew Corey, a bar owner / teamster who's run for statewide office now 5 times. The 5th time, not the charm for him. Murphy wins re-election in Connecticut. Meantime, a projection to bring you from Rhode Island. There, incumbent Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse seeking his 4th term in office. He's projected to defeat Patricia Morgan, a Democratic member, or rather a Republican member of the state House. And now, in Vermont, the longest-serving independent in congressional history, Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent who caucuses with Democrats, is expected to win his 4th term as he defeats Gerald Malloy, a business executive. So what do all those projections mean for the magic number, the number that Republicans need to pick up in order to take control of the upper chamber? With the 1 pickup in West Virginia, they started out the night at 2, now it's at 1, and they are currently leading, still early, but they are currently leading in 0 races where Democrats hold seats. Let's take a look at some key race alerts now and get you live updates, live results as they are coming into CNN, beginning with the state of Texas. This is a welcome sign for Democrats. It is still early, but right now, Democratic Congressman Colin Allred from the Dallas area has about a 31,000 vote lead over Republican incumbent Ted Cruz, who's seeking his 3rd term in office. Of course, Democrats love to see this, but it is still early, and this could present one of the few opportunities for Democrats to pick up a Republican seat. We just got an update now. His lead up to 14,000 votes with 18% of the vote in the Lone Star State. Let's get you an update from Pennsylvania. Here, incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey, seeking his 4th term in office. He's currently leading against the CEO of one of the largest hedge funds in the world, former CEO, I should say, Dave McCormick. Casey right now with a 223,000 vote lead. Still very early, though, 6% of the vote in, and it just updated. A 222,000 vote lead now for Casey with 6% of the vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. An update for you. One of the closest races we are expecting tonight coming from Michigan. There, Democratic Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, 60,000 votes ahead of former Republican Congressman Mike Rogers. This is for the open seat left by retiring Democratic Senator Debbie Stabenow, 3% of the vote in the Wolverine state of Michigan. So, looking at the balance of power for the U.S. Senate, these are the raw numbers. Democrats hold 32 seats, Republicans 42 with that one important pickup in West Virginia, but 26 seats remain up for grabs. It's an open contest right now in the U.S. Senate. You need 51 seats to control that chamber, Jake.
All right, Boris, thanks so much. We're awaiting more votes in the crucial presidential battlegrounds of Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. We're watching those very early votes from Michigan as well. We're also looking ahead to 9 p.m. Eastern when all voting is going to end in Michigan and another blue wall battleground state, Wisconsin. Voting also ends soon in the key western swing state of Arizona. More votes, more suspense when Election Night in America continues after this quick break. It is 8:21 p.m. in the East Coast, and we are getting deeper into this election. Let us take a key race alert right now. Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris in the lead there with 72% of the vote. Donald Trump has 26.9% of the vote. Harris has a 240,000 plus vote lead, but it's early. Only 8% of the estimated vote has come in from Pennsylvania. In Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead there with 61.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with 37.1% of the vote. Harris with a 58,000 plus vote lead. Still early there as well. Only 4% of the estimated vote has come in from Michigan. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead with 55% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 44.4% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 275,000 plus vote lead. That's with almost half the vote in, 48% of the estimated vote in from battleground Georgia. In battleground North Carolina, Kamala Harris in the lead there with 52.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with 46.5% of the vote. Harris has a 36,000 plus vote lead. That's with only 11% of the estimated vote in from North Carolina. It is still very early in North Carolina. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Harris in the lead there, 51% of the vote. Donald Trump has 47.2% of the vote. Harris with a 58,000 vote or so lead. That's with more than a third of the vote in from Commonwealth Virginia, 34% of the estimated vote. John King?
Jake, I'll take it back to you. I'll be back in a minute.
That's right. I have a projection now. CNN has a projection. And CNN can project that South Carolina will go to Donald Trump. South Carolina, as expected, to the Republican with 9 electoral votes. Let's take a look at how that affects the electoral map. Donald Trump in the lead with 99 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 27 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes needed to win. Neither of them are particularly close, though obviously Donald Trump in the lead. John? All right, John. Well, polls are about to close in deep red Arkansas, where 6 electoral votes are at stake. And CNN can project that Donald Trump will win the state of Arkansas as expected. Donald Trump will take home Arkansas's 6 electoral votes. Let's take a look at the electoral map count now. Donald Trump in the lead with 105 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 27 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes needed to win. Let's take a look at where there are states that have not been projected yet. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris has 71.2% of the vote. Donald Trump has 27.8% of the vote. Harris with a 238,000 plus vote lead, but it's early. Only 8% of the estimated vote has been in from Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris has 57.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has 40.5% of the vote. Harris with a 50,000 plus vote lead. That's with 6% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Still a lot of votes to be counted in Michigan. In battleground North Carolina, Harris in the lead there. 49.8% of the vote, but Donald Trump bringing up the rear, 48.9% of the vote. Harris has right now a approximately 7,200 vote lead. That's with 14% of the estimated vote in North Carolina counted. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead with 55.4% of the vote. Kamala Harris bringing up the rear with 44% of the vote. Donald Trump with a healthy 322,000 plus vote lead. That's with more than half of the vote counted in Georgia. 53% of the estimated vote in Georgia counted. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Kamala Harris in the lead with 50% of the vote. Donald Trump with 48.2% of the vote. Harris with a 30,000 plus vote lead. That's with more than a third, 39% of the estimated vote in from Virginia counted. In the state of New Hampshire, Kamala Harris in the lead, 54.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with 45.3% of the vote. Harris with a 13,000 plus vote lead. That's with an estimated 18% of the estimated vote out of New Hampshire counted. In Ohio, Donald Trump in the lead, 50.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 36,000 plus vote lead. That's with an estimated 41% of the estimated vote in from Ohio. And now we can make a projection in a closely watched race for governor. CNN can project that Democrat Josh Stein will be elected governor of North Carolina. Stein is the current attorney general. We are projecting that he will defeat his Republican opponent, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who had Donald Trump's endorsement. Robinson's history of controversy became a major issue in the race, including recently uncovered, shall we call them, inflammatory posts on a porn website from more than a decade ago. Again, CNN projects the Democrats will hold on to the governor's office in North Carolina, with Attorney General Josh Stein replacing the term-limited Governor Roy Cooper. John? All right. Now let's check in on the all-important race to 270 electoral votes as we head into another round of poll closings. So, with Donald Trump is in the lead here with 105 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 27 electoral votes. Obviously, 270 are needed to win. We are far from that. Obviously, Donald Trump still in the lead. But now let's bring you another key race alert. In North Carolina, battleground North Carolina, Donald Trump in the lead there. 52.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 46.6% of the vote. Donald Trump taking the lead there in the first time this night. Donald Trump has a 69,000 plus vote lead. That's with about a fifth of the vote in, 21% of the estimated vote in from battleground North Carolina. And battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead with 56.9% of the vote. Donald Trump has 41.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris currently has 59,000 plus more votes. That's with 7% of the estimated vote. It's still very early. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the all-important battleground, Kamala Harris in the lead there with 69.8% of the vote. Donald Trump has 29.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 323,000 plus vote lead, but that's only 11% of the estimated vote in. It's still very early in Pennsylvania. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead, 55.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 43.8% of the vote. Donald Trump has currently a 339,000 plus vote lead. That's with more than half of the vote in battleground Georgia, 54% of the estimated vote in from Georgia. Now we're standing by for the second largest wave of poll closings just minutes from now at 9 Eastern, when a total of 163 electoral votes are at stake in 15 states. Remember, 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. All voting is about to end in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, the battleground state of Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, battleground Wisconsin, and Wyoming. As I mentioned, Michigan and Wisconsin are the two battlegrounds on the line in the hour ahead. Pillars of the Democrats' so-called blue wall that crumbled in 2016 but was rebuilt to help seal President Biden's victory 4 years ago. Out west, Arizona is another major presidential battleground that we're watching. We're heading into a high-stakes hour in the Harris-Trump contest, with polling places about to close in 3 states that could decide the race. Let's go to Abby Phillip at Harris Campaign Headquarters in Washington. And Abby, voting is about to end in 3 battlegrounds. What's the outlook in the Harris campaign? All right, John King, voting is about to end in 15 states, the second biggest wave of results this evening. 163 electoral votes will be up for grabs, and we're watching several crucial battlegrounds. CNN's going to bring you this projection right now. CNN projects that Texas will go to Donald Trump. The state of Texas, as expected, to Donald Trump with its big bucket of 40 electoral votes. CNN also projects that North Dakota will go to Donald Trump. As expected, North Dakota with its 3 electoral votes. 2 more for Trump now. CNN projects that South Dakota will go to Donald Trump. South Dakota, as expected, with its 3 electoral votes to Donald Trump. And CNN projects that Wyoming will go to Donald Trump. Wyoming with its 3 electoral votes. CNN is not making any projections in the following states that just closed their polls. Arizona, that's a big battleground. Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, battleground Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, and battleground Wisconsin. Let's look at the electoral map now. Donald Trump has 154 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 27 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. Let's bring you a key race alert now. In battleground Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris in the lead with 64.4% of the vote. Donald Trump has 34.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris in the lead there with 326,000 plus votes. Only an estimated 16% of the vote has been counted in Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead, 54.8% of the vote. Donald Trump with 43.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 55,000 plus vote lead. That's with only an estimated 8% of the vote counted in Michigan. Still very early in Michigan. In battleground North Carolina, Donald Trump in the lead there now, 51.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 106,000 vote lead. That's with 39% of the estimated vote counted in battleground North Carolina. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead there, 52.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 46.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has a healthy 221,000 plus vote lead. That's with an estimated 66% of the vote counted in Georgia. About 2/3 of the vote in Georgia has been counted. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Donald Trump in the lead there now with 49.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 13,334 vote lead. That's with half the vote counted in the Commonwealth of Virginia, 50% counted there in Virginia. In the state of New Hampshire, Kamala Harris has 53.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has 45.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris in the lead there by roughly 16,000 votes. That's with about a quarter, 25% of the estimated vote counted in the Granite State of New Hampshire. In Ohio, Donald Trump in the lead, 52.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 46.3% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 197,000 plus vote. That's with half the vote counted in Ohio, 50% of the vote counted in Ohio. Let's go to John King at the Magic Wall. John. All right, John King, and CNN can now bring you a new projection. CNN projects that Kamala Harris will win the state of Delaware. Delaware, as expected, will go to Kamala Harris with its 3 electoral votes, the small wonder state. Let's take a look at the electoral vote count. Donald Trump has 154 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 30 electoral votes. 270 electoral votes are needed to win. Let's bring you a key race alert now. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris has 60.4% of the vote. Donald Trump, 38.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 284,000 plus vote lead. 284,000 plus vote lead with only an estimated 19% of the vote in, not even a fifth of the vote. Still a lot of votes to count in Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris with 53.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has 44.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 46,000 plus vote lead. Only a tenth of the vote has been counted in Michigan, 10%, still very early there. In North Carolina, Donald Trump in the lead with 51.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 46.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 119,000 plus vote lead. That's with 41% of the estimated vote counted in North Carolina. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead there, 52.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 46.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 225,000 plus vote lead. That's with 69% of the estimated vote in Georgia. They're really counting the ballots in Georgia there. 69% of the estimated vote has been counted. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Donald Trump still has his 49.5% lead, and now it's 49.4%. Kamala Harris has 48.6%. Donald Trump is 18,000 plus votes ahead of Kamala Harris right now, with more than half, 52% of the estimated vote counted in the Commonwealth of Virginia. In New Hampshire, Kamala Harris in the lead with 53.3% of the vote. Donald Trump has 46% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 17,000 plus vote lead. That's with more than a quarter, 28% of the estimated vote in the granted state of New Hampshire counted. In Ohio, Donald Trump still in the lead there, 53.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 45.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 275,000 plus vote lead. That's with more than half, 52% of the estimated vote counted in Ohio. John King. All right, David, and we have some projections right now for you at home. CNN can project that Illinois will go to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, as expected, will win Illinois in its 19 electoral votes. CNN can also project that Rhode Island will go to Kamala Harris, as expected. Kamala Harris will get the 4 electoral votes from Rhode Island. So where are we on the electoral map as of right now? Donald Trump has 154 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 53 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. Neither of them is within spitting distance of that. Let's take a look at the actual votes coming in from the battlegrounds that we have not projected. In battleground Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris in the lead, 57.5% of the vote. Donald Trump, 41.5% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 258,000 plus vote lead. That's with about a quarter, 23% of the estimated vote in Pennsylvania counted as of now. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris with 53.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with 44.3% of the vote. Harris with a 64,000 plus vote lead. That's with an estimated 12% of the vote counted in Michigan. Still very early in Michigan. In battleground North Carolina, Donald Trump in the lead. 50.7% of the vote. Harris with 48.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 75,000 plus vote lead. That's with more than half, 51% of the estimated vote counted in battleground North Carolina. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump still holding on to his lead, 52.9% of the vote. Harris has 46.4% of the vote. Donald Trump right now with a 249,000 plus vote lead. Now it's a 255,000 vote lead. That's with an estimated 71% of the vote counted in battleground Georgia. In Virginia, Donald Trump in the lead as of now, 49.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48.7% of the vote. Donald Trump is ahead by more than 15,000 votes. That's with more than half, 56% of the estimated vote, but still a lot of vote to come in the Commonwealth of Virginia. In New Hampshire, Harris with 53.4% of the vote. Donald Trump with 45.9% of the vote. Harris with an 18,000 plus vote lead. That's with under a third of the vote counted in New Hampshire. 30% of the estimated vote counted in New Hampshire. In Ohio, Donald Trump in the lead, 54.3% of the vote. Harris with 44.8% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 332,000 plus vote lead. That's with almost 60%, 58% of the estimated vote counted in the Buckeye state. Now let's go to John King at the Magic Wall. John. All right, John King, we have a projection for you now at home, you people at home. CNN can project that New York, as expected, will go to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris will be the winner of the 28 electoral votes offered from the Empire State. Let's take a look at the electoral vote count now. Donald Trump in the lead, 154. Kamala Harris with 81. 270 are needed to win. Neither of them is there as of yet. Let's go to Abby Phillip at Harris campaign headquarters here in Washington, D.C. on the campus of Howard University. Abby. All right, John, as we stand by for the next poll closings at the top of the hour, here's an update on the race to 270. Donald Trump has 154 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 81 electoral votes. Obviously, 270 electoral votes are needed to win. Now, another key race alert. Let's go to the states where we have not called. Kamala Harris in the lead in Pennsylvania, 51.4% of the vote. Donald Trump has 47.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 88,000 plus votes of a lead, but it's about 35% of the vote that's been counted in Pennsylvania, about a third. Still a lot of vote to count in Pennsylvania. Michigan, Kamala Harris has 52% of the vote. Donald Trump has 46.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 49,000 plus vote lead. That's with only an estimated 15% of the vote counted in the battleground of Michigan. In Wisconsin, another battleground, Kamala Harris 52.2% of the vote. Donald Trump 46.1% of the vote. Harris with a 52,000 plus vote lead, but only 27% of the vote counted in Wisconsin, still very early in Wisconsin. Battleground North Carolina, Donald Trump still in the lead there with 52.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 46.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 201,000 plus vote lead as of now. That's with 64% of the estimated vote counted in the battleground of North Carolina. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 208,000 plus vote lead. That's with 79% of the estimated vote in Georgia counted. Still a lot of votes to count there, but a lot of votes have already counted. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Donald Trump. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Donald Trump has 49.5% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 48.6% of the vote. That is a 28,000 now vote lead with 63% of the vote counted. I am going to now bring you a projection. And CNN can project Louisiana will go to Donald Trump. Louisiana with its 8 electoral votes as expected to Donald Trump. Let's see what that impact is on the electoral vote count. Donald Trump has 162 votes, electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 81 electoral votes. She has exactly half. 270 votes are needed to win. We're getting deeper into the night and another round of results. We're counting down to the top of the hour, 10 p.m. Eastern, when 16 electoral votes are on the line in 3 states. Every vote is vital to get to the winning total of 270. Polling places are about to close in Montana and battleground Nevada and in Utah. Nevada is the key battleground to watch in the next hour. Kamala Harris fighting to hold on to Nevada for the Democrats, a state that Donald Trump narrowly lost in 2020 and in 2016. As we await the end of voting in Nevada, let's check in with Jim Acosta, who's at a polling place in Las Vegas. And Jim, you have new information from the Nevada Secretary of State. That's right, John. And we're just moments away from another round of poll closings. Voting is about to end in 3 states, including the key battleground of Nevada. A total of 16 electoral votes are on the line right now. And CNN can project that Donald Trump will win the state of Montana. As expected, Trump gets Montana with its 4 electoral votes. CNN can also project that Donald Trump will win the state of Utah. As expected, Utah with its 6 electoral votes. Nevada is too early to call, a battleground state that Donald Trump has narrowly lost in the last 2 elections, but is making a big play for this election. Let's look at the electoral math right now. Donald Trump has 172 electoral votes. Kamala Harris with 81 electoral votes, 270 electoral votes needed to win. Neither of them is there yet. Let's look at the key races now. Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris, 49.9% of the vote. Donald Trump has narrowed her 20,000 plus vote lead. He's at 49.2% of the vote. More votes have come in from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. 43% of the estimated vote from Pennsylvania is in, and Kamala Harris right now has an 18,000 plus vote lead there. Kamala Harris in the lead in Michigan, 51.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has 46.5% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 46,000 plus vote lead. Still, only 16% of the estimated vote in Michigan has been counted. In battleground Wisconsin, Harris is at 49.8% of the vote. Donald Trump is at 48.4% of the vote. She has a 15,000 plus vote lead. That's with more than a third, 35% of the vote counted in Wisconsin. In battleground North Carolina, Donald Trump maintaining his lead. He has 52% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 46.8% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 196,000 plus vote lead. That is with 2/3, 66% of the estimated vote in North Carolina counted. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump maintaining his lead, 51.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 208,000 plus vote lead. That's with 79% of the estimated vote in from the battleground state of Georgia. We're now getting an update on the vote in North Carolina. Let's go to John King, actually, right now. John King, what can you tell us? All right, John, and we have some projections for you now. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the state of Colorado. Colorado, as expected, will go Democratic with its 10 electoral votes. CNN can also project that Donald Trump will be the winner of Mississippi. As expected, Mississippi and its 6 electoral votes go to the Republican. Let's bring in the electoral map right now. Donald Trump in the lead, 178 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 91 electoral votes, 270 electoral votes, as always, needed to win. Let's take a look at the outstanding races right now. Arizona joins the map of key race alerts. Kamala Harris has 50% of the vote. Donald Trump has 49.2% of the vote. That is a 15,478 vote lead for Kamala Harris, with 49% of the estimated vote counted. Kamala Harris in Wisconsin, 49.9% of the vote. Donald Trump bringing up the rear, 48.5% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 19,910 vote lead. That's with 43% of the estimated vote counted in Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead there now, 50.3% of the vote in Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris has 48.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 58,648 lead right now with an estimated 51% of the vote in Pennsylvania. In Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead there, 51.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 204,640 vote lead. That's with 81% of the estimated vote in Georgia. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead, 51.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with 47% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 43,307 vote lead. That's with an estimated 19% of the vote in battleground Michigan. In battleground North Carolina, Donald Trump in the lead, 52.4% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 46.4% of the vote. Donald Trump with 253,752 more votes as of right now than Kamala Harris. That's with 72% of the estimated vote in. In New Mexico, Kamala Harris in the lead, 50.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with 47.6% of the vote. That means Harris has an 8,592 vote lead over Trump. That's with less than a third, 31% of the estimated vote in from New Mexico, still early in New Mexico. Kamala Harris takes the lead again in Virginia with 49.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with 49% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 1,118 vote lead. That's with 68% of the estimated votes in from Virginia. John, what do you want to talk about? All right, John, thanks so much. We have another projection. CNN can project that Donald Trump will win the state of Ohio. Ohio, as expected, will go to Donald Trump. Ohio with its 17 electoral votes. What does that mean for the electoral count map? Donald Trump has 195 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 91 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. John King? All right, we have some projections right now. CNN can project that Iowa will go to Donald Trump as expected. Iowa and its 6 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump, CNN can project. CNN can also project that Kansas will go to Donald Trump. Kansas and its 6 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump. So that's 12 additional electoral votes for Donald Trump, who now has 207 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 91 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes needed to win. Donald Trump holding a sizable lead in the electoral vote as of now, but we are expecting more votes to drop in Democratic strongholds in key battleground states. We're also counting down to the next round of poll closings at 11 p.m. Eastern, when Democrats are expecting to claim a gold mine of electoral votes out west in California. That's all ahead. As we prepare for the next round of poll closings in about 15 minutes, let's take a look at the fight for electoral votes right now. As of right now, Donald Trump has 207 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 91 electoral votes. There are 270 needed to win. The results, of course, are still coming in, and we have a key race alert right now. In Arizona, Donald Trump is in the lead with 49.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.5% of the vote. Donald Trump with a narrow 1,046 vote lead with 51% of the estimated vote in from Battleground, Arizona. In Battleground, Wisconsin, Donald Trump is in the lead there with 49.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 4,004 up. That just increased. So to a 6,556 lead ahead of Kamala Harris with an estimated 55% of the vote in from Wisconsin. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump maintaining his lead, 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 121,000 plus vote lead. That's with 61% of the estimated vote in from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In Georgia, Donald Trump maintaining his lead with 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 153,980 vote lead with an estimated 86% of the vote in. In Battleground, Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead. She has 52.5% of the vote. Donald Trump with 45.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a more than 102,000 vote lead. That's with 27% of the estimated vote in from Battleground, Michigan. In North Carolina, Donald Trump maintaining his lead. He has 50.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.9% of the vote. Donald Trump is 134,000 plus votes ahead with 84% of the estimated vote in the Tar Heel state. In Virginia, Kamala Harris still in the lead, 49.9% of the vote. Donald Trump has 48.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris is maintaining a 55,000 plus vote lead with 3/4 of the vote in there. In Virginia, 75% of the estimated vote. And then in New Mexico, Kamala Harris with 53.2% of the vote in the lead there. Donald Trump has 44.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48,589 more votes than Donald Trump right now with an estimated 65% of the vote. Still about a third of the vote left to count in New Mexico. And Boris Sanchez has a new projection for us in the fight for control of the U.S. Senate. Boris?
Yeah, Jake, a handful of important projections to bring you, beginning with history being made in the state of Maryland. There, the executive of Prince George's County, Democrat Angela Alsobrooks, will defeat former two-term Republican Governor Larry Hogan. She becomes the first African-American person ever elected to the Senate from the state of Maryland. Another projection to bring you, this one from the state of Delaware. Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester defeats Eric Hansen, a former Walmart executive, the Democrat here becoming the first woman and the first African-American person ever elected to the Senate from Delaware. A projection to bring you in the Northeast, this time in New York. There, incumbent Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, a former presidential candidate, she will win her third full term in office as she defeats former NYPD detective Mike Sapercone. Let's get you some updates on the Republican side, beginning with the Lone Star State of Texas. Going into the night, Democrats had optimism about potentially flipping this seat from red to blue instead. Republican incumbent Ted Cruz wins re-election, cruising to his third term against Democrat Colin Allred, a congressman from the Dallas area, a former Tennessee Titans middle linebacker. Cruz here winning by a substantial margin in the Lone Star State. An update now from Mississippi. There, incumbent Republican Roger Wicker wins his third full term, defeating civil rights attorney Ty Pickens. Re-election for Wicker in Mississippi. An update now from one of the reddest states in the country, Wyoming. There, incumbent Republican Senator John Barrasso wins his fourth term as he defeats Scott Morrow, a union official who touts his black belt in Taekwondo on his campaign website. Barrasso reelected in Wyoming. Some more projections to bring you, beginning in Missouri. There, incumbent Republican Senator Josh Hawley, perhaps best known for being the first senator to object to certifying the 2020 election results in favor of Joe Biden, he defeats Democrat Lucas Kunz to win re-election in Missouri. Meantime, in Nebraska, this special election, Pete Ricketts, a former governor there, he defeats Preston Love Jr., a former campaign manager for Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign in 1984. This is to serve out the term left by retired Republican Senator Ben Sasse. An update from North Dakota now. There, incumbent Republican Senator Kevin Cramer wins his second term, defeating engineering professor Katrina Christensen. Cramer reelected in North Dakota. So what do all these results mean for the magic number that Republicans need to take control of the U.S. Senate? Remember, they started out the night needing 2 Democratic seats to flip the chamber. Right now, that number with a pickup in West Virginia is 1. And currently, as of this moment, Republicans are leading in 4 races where Democrats hold seats. But hold on, because that needs some context. 2 of these states are fairly early. One of them is Montana, and that race is expected to be competitive, but the other one is Minnesota, in which we're not really expecting that close of a race tonight. And there's also potentially a twist. I'll explain that in just a moment as we take a look at some key race alerts. These are live results coming into CNN right now. In Pennsylvania, this race has been back and forth all night. Look at what separates the former CEO of a hedge fund, Dave McCormick, from incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey. 0.1 percentage points. 44,000 vote lead for McCormick with 61% of the vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Meantime, the most expensive Senate race in the country, in history. Nearly $500 million spent on this race, and currently Colombian-born businessman Bernie Moreno leads incumbent Democrat Sherrod Brown with 261,000 votes, 84% of the vote in Ohio, where now Donald Trump has won the book, I state, 3 times in a row. And this is the twist I was talking about before. No one expected this Senate race in Nebraska would be this close. You have Dan Osborne, an independent, who has not said which party he would caucus with. In fact, saying that he would caucus with neither party. Right now, he holds a 10,000, almost 11,000 vote lead over incumbent Republican Deb Fischer, 48% of the vote in there. If he wins, it could change the math a little bit for what Republicans need to take control of the Senate. Let's step back and give you a look at the balance of power. The raw numbers: Democrats hold 35 seats, Republicans 48, again with that 1 pickup of West Virginia. But there are 17 seats still up for grabs. You need 51 for control of the chamber, Jake.
That Nebraska race is fascinating. The presidential race is moving west right now, and we are counting down to 11 p.m. Eastern. That's when a total of 78 electoral votes are on the line. Most of them are in California. Polling places are about to close there, and also in Idaho and Oregon and Washington State. Kamala Harris is counting on Blue California to push her closer to the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. Let's go back to Abby Phillip at Harris Campaign headquarters. Abby, you and Jeff have been talking to people inside the Harris campaign. What are they telling you? Indeed, voting is about to end in 4 states out west. That includes the biggest prize of all, California, which has 54 of the 78 electoral votes at stake this hour. And we have a projection for you now. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the state of California with those 54 electoral votes. Not unexpected. Harris will win California. CNN is also projecting that Donald Trump will win the state of Idaho with its 4 electoral votes. So what does that mean for the electoral? Too early to call. We have Washington State with 12 electoral votes and Oregon with 8 electoral votes. Too early to call. Let's go to the electoral map right now. Donald Trump with 211 electoral votes at this hour. Kamala Harris cracks 100, now has 145 electoral votes. 270 electoral votes are needed to win. Donald Trump is 59 electoral votes away from that. Let's look at these battleground states now. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead there, 49.6%. Kamala Harris right behind him with 49.5%. Donald Trump has a 2,356 vote lead with 51% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Wisconsin, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48.4%. Donald Trump has a 28,576 vote lead with an estimated 59% of the estimated vote in from the Badger State. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump maintaining his lead. He's at 50.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 119,411 vote lead with 68% of the estimated vote in from Pennsylvania. In Georgia, Donald Trump still in the lead there, 51% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 136,328 vote lead. That is with 88% of the estimated vote in from the state of Georgia. In North Carolina, another battleground where Donald Trump leads, 50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.8% of the vote. Donald Trump has a 145,388 vote lead over Kamala Harris right now with an estimated 85% of the vote in from the Tar Heel State. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead. She has 51.3% of the vote. Donald Trump has 46.9%. Kamala Harris is 74,838 votes ahead of Donald Trump, but that's less than a third of the vote counted there. 30% of the estimated vote in from the state of Michigan. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Kamala Harris in the lead there still, but narrowly so. 50.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has 48% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 73,375 vote lead. That is with 78% of the estimated vote in from the Commonwealth of Virginia. In New Mexico, Harris leads there too, 52.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with 45.5% of the vote. That is with an estimated 69% of the vote in. Harris with a roughly 43,000 vote lead. Let's go now to Abby Phillip, who is at Harris campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C., at the campus of Howard University. Abby, what are you hearing from the Harris campaign, if anything? Indeed. And CNN can bring you a projection now. Folks at home, CNN projects that the state of Oregon will go to Kamala Harris. As expected, Oregon, with its 8 electoral votes, will go to the Democrat Kamala Harris. Let's take a look at the electoral map. Right now, Donald Trump has 211 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 153 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. Let's take a look at the key races now. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead there, 49.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris right behind him with 49.5% of the vote. Donald Trump with a roughly 3,000 vote lead. That's with 51% of the estimated vote in from the state of Arizona. In battleground Wisconsin, Donald Trump maintaining his lead, 50.4% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 50,000 vote lead right now with 63% of the estimated vote in from the Badger State. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump maintaining his lead, 51% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with more than 165,000 more votes than Kamala Harris, with more than 76% of the estimated vote in from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead, 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 48.3% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 131,000 vote lead over Kamala Harris. That's with 90% of the estimated vote in. So they got 10% to go there in Georgia, but Donald Trump in the lead. In North Carolina, another battleground, Donald Trump still in the lead there with 50.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.9% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 138,000 vote lead over Kamala Harris with an estimated 87% of the vote in. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris is in the lead, 50.2% of the vote. Donald Trump has 48% of the vote. Harris has a more than 40,000 vote lead over Donald Trump with 33% of the vote in there. John King? All right, John. Well, CNN has a major projection. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina. This is the first of 7 battleground states that we're keeping an eye on, and we are calling it for Donald Trump. What does that mean for the electoral count? Donald Trump now has 227 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 153. 270 are needed to win. Let's go to Trump HQ in West Palm Beach, Florida, where we find Caitlin Collins. And Caitlin, CNN is now calling North Carolina for Donald Trump. This is the first of 7 battleground states that the campaign is watching with eagle eyes. Yeah, very interesting. Let's bring you a key race alert and get you up to speed on where we are in all the states that we have not called. In battleground Pennsylvania, Donald Trump with 51.3%, Kamala Harris 47.6%. Donald Trump more than 212,000 votes ahead with 82% of the estimated vote in from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.2%. Kamala Harris at 47%. Donald Trump at 98,014 votes ahead of Kamala Harris with 41% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. In battleground Wisconsin, Donald Trump in the lead, 50.7%. to Harris's 47.7%. Donald Trump with a 68,000 plus vote lead over Harris with 71% of the estimated vote in from the Badger State. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump up 50.8% to Harris's 48.3%. Donald Trump with 128,582 more votes than Kamala Harris with 92% of the estimated vote counted in the state of Georgia. In the state of Arizona, another battleground, Donald Trump in the lead there. 49.8% to Harris's 49.3%. Donald Trump with a 7,588 vote lead over Kamala Harris. That's with more than half, 52% of the estimated vote in. In Nevada, Donald Trump in the lead, 73%. Kamala Harris with 26.2%. Donald Trump with a 10,985 vote lead over Harris. That's with only 2% of the vote in from from Nevada, only 2%. Boris Sanchez now has some new projections in the fight for control of the U.S. Senate.
Jake, a major moment for Republicans. They have just flipped. They are expected to flip their second Democratic seat of the night, this one coming in Ohio. There, Republican Bernie Moreno defeating incumbent Democrat Sherrod Brown. Moreno, the owner of some luxury car dealerships who invested early in blockchain technology, fought to attach Brown to the Biden administration more broadly, specifically on issues like immigration. Sherrod Brown, a populist who had survived some difficult tests in his state before, cannot overcome the political headwinds he is facing. Donald Trump has now won Ohio 3 elections in a row, and it's simply too much for the incumbent Democrat to overcome. So we are projecting that Bernie Moreno is your new junior senator from the Buckeye State. Meantime, 4 Democratic holds. The first one, a historic one in New Jersey. There, Congressman Andy Kim is set to become the first Korean American ever to serve in the U.S. Senate. He defeats real estate tycoon Curtis Bashaw. Meantime, in Virginia, there, incumbent Democratic Senator Tim Kaine, a former vice presidential candidate, he's projected to defeat Hung Kao, a former Navy captain. Another Democratic hold to tell you about this one, Martin Heinrich, the incumbent senator there, seeking his 3rd term. He defeats Nella Dominici, whose father was the last Republican senator elected in New Mexico some 20 years ago. Another Democratic hold to project for you, this one coming in the state of Washington. There, Democratic incumbent Senator Maria Cantwell wins her 5th term as she defeats Raul Garcia, an ER doctor. Now, what does that pickup in Ohio mean for the magic number? We started out the night with Republicans needing to pick up 2 Democratic seats to take control of the chamber. With West Virginia and Ohio, they have hit 2, and now they're seeking to pad those numbers. Currently, as we speak, Republicans are leading in 4 seats currently held by Democrats. Let's get you an update on where those are right now with some key race alerts. These are live results coming into CNN. We start with the state of Wisconsin. There, the CEO of California-based SunWest Bank, Eric Hovde, is 29,000 votes ahead of Democratic incumbent Senator Tammy Baldwin, who's seeking her 3rd term in office, 70% of the vote. And we just got an update. The lead pretty much the same in Wisconsin for Hovde. In Pennsylvania, this has been going back and forth all night, but right now, the former CEO of one of the largest hedge funds in the world, Dave McCormick, currently leads incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey by about 120,000 votes. Still a very close race. This one also a very expensive one. 81% of the vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, a key race alert from the state of Michigan. This one has been close all night as well. Former Republican Congressman Mike Rogers currently leading current Democratic Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, 48,000 votes. Rogers ahead of Slotkin, 40% of the vote in the Wolverine state. So let's take a look at the balance of power in the U.S. Senate, the raw numbers. What does this mean? Democrats hold 40 seats. Republicans, with those 2 pickups, hold 49, 11 seats remaining to be determined. Jake, obviously you need 51 for control of the chamber.
All right, Boris, thanks so much. And CNN can make a projection. CNN projects that Washington State, as expected, will go to Kamala Harris. Washington State, with its 12 electoral votes, to the Democrat, Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's look at the electoral map right now. Donald Trump has 227 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 165 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. We are waiting for more votes in the big 3 blue wall battlegrounds of Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin that both campaigns are watching very closely right now. A total of 6 top battlegrounds remain undecided as we get later into this election night. Stay right here for the next big rollout of votes. Right now, we're going to squeeze in a quick break. Stay with us. And CNN has another projection for you. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win 3 out of the 5 electoral votes from the state of Nebraska. Allow me a second to explain. Nebraska and Maine allocate their electoral votes partly in addition to the statewide 3 votes according to congressional district. That's already too complicated, probably. Anyway, put it this way. Donald Trump has won 3 out of the 5 electoral votes. The other 2 we do not know yet, but Donald Trump has 3 of the 5. That means 3 more electoral votes for Donald Trump. And what does that mean for the electoral map? Donald Trump has 230 electoral votes. He is 40 electoral votes away from winning. Kamala Harris has 165 electoral votes. She is 105 electoral votes away from winning. Let's see what the states that we have not called, where their vote counts are. Pennsylvania. Donald Trump is in the lead there with 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.7% of the vote. Donald Trump is ahead of her by more than 206,000 votes. That's with 83% of the estimated vote in. That's Pennsylvania. Battleground Michigan, Donald Trump up 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 46.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 111,000 vote lead with an estimated 44% of the vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin now, Donald Trump in the lead there too. 50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump almost 80,000 votes ahead of her with 3/4 of the vote, 74% of the estimated vote from the Badger State in. Battleground Georgia, Donald Trump is up 50.7%. Kamala Harris is 48.4%. Donald Trump more than 118,000 votes ahead of her with an estimated 93% of the estimated vote in. Arizona, Donald Trump ahead there too with 49.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.3% of the vote. He is more than 7,500 votes ahead of her right now, but they still have about 48% of the vote to count, 52% of the estimated vote in. In Nevada, Donald Trump is in the lead with 73% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 26.2% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 10,000 vote, almost 11,000 vote lead. That is with only 2% of the estimated vote in. As we follow these crucial undecided races, we are already also getting closer to another poll closing. 4 more electoral votes are at stake in the next hour in the heat of the battle to reach 270. So every electoral vote counts. We're just minutes away from voting ending in the reliably blue state of Hawaii. Over to John King now at the Magic Wall. John. All right, John King, thank you so much. Every electoral vote counts, and 4 more are on the line right now as polling places are about to close in Hawaii. And we project Kamala Harris will win the state of Hawaii with its 4 electoral votes. Not a surprise. Hawaii, a reliably Democratic vote. But that does mean a pickup of 4 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has 230. He is 40 votes away from winning. Kamala Harris has 169 electoral votes. She is 101 votes away from the 270 needed to win. John King. All right, and we have a projection, John. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the Commonwealth of Virginia. Commonwealth of Virginia, with its 13 electoral votes, will go to the Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris. What does that mean for the electoral math? Let's take a look. With 270 electoral votes needed to win, Donald Trump is only 40 behind that with 230. Kamala Harris has 182 electoral votes. Let's bring you a key race alert. Where are we with all the states that we have not projected yet? Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead. 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 213,000 vote lead over her with 84% of the estimated vote in from Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Donald Trump up there, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 107,294 vote lead over Harris. But there's still about 55% of the vote that has not been counted in Michigan. A lot of votes to count in Michigan. Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51% of the vote, Kamala Harris 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 92,000 vote lead over Harris. That's with more than 3/4 of the votes counted in Wisconsin, 77% of the vote. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump up 50.7% to Harris's 48.4%. Donald Trump with a 118,838 vote lead over Harris with 93% of the estimated vote in. In battleground Arizona, Donald Trump up 49.8% to Harris's 49.3%. Donald Trump with a 9,600 plus vote lead. That's with slightly more than half of the vote counted in Arizona, 52%. In Nevada, Donald Trump up 73% to Harris's 26.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with an almost 11,000 vote lead. But that is, again, with only 2% of the estimated vote in Nevada counted. Still a lot of votes to count in Nevada. John?
And I'm going to go to Jake for a major projection.
That's right. We have another major projection for you now. And CNN can project that Georgia will go to Donald Trump. Georgia, a very highly contested battleground of 16 electoral votes. This is the second of 7 battleground states that we have called, and both of them have been for Donald Trump. Let's take a look at what that means for the electoral math. Donald Trump right now has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris right now has 182 electoral votes. There are 270 needed to win. As of right now, CNN is not ready to project who is going to win the presidency, but I'm sorry for so rudely interrupting. Donald Trump has now been projected to have won the second of seven key battleground states, with 5 more to go. And obviously, the blue wall states, as you were saying, are crucial. It is election night in America, and let us bring you back to where we are right now with 270 electoral votes needed to win. Donald Trump is in the lead with 246. Kamala Harris is at 182. There are still 5 battleground states that remain uncalled by CNN. Let us go and look at where they are. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead with 50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 165,000 vote lead. Let's go to Kamala Harris headquarters right now. Let's listen in.
Let's go back to Jake.
All right, thanks so much. And we're going to bring you a key race alert right now. Let's check in with the states that we have not projected. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still in the lead there. 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 216,000 vote lead there, with 92% of the estimated vote coming in from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Michigan now, the Wolverine state. Donald Trump, 52% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 203,000 vote lead, with 61% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, that's the Badger state. Donald Trump, 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.3% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 110,000 vote lead, with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 12,242 vote lead there, a little bit more narrow, with 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. We are awaiting more votes from the outstanding presidential battlegrounds as this race goes into the night shift, and we expect to hear Donald Trump speak to his supporters very soon. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay here. And we have a projection for you now. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the state of New Mexico. New Mexico, as expected, will go to the Democrat, Vice President Kamala Harris. New Mexico with its 5 electoral votes. What does that bring us in terms of the math? Let us look. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris, with the addition of New Mexico, has 187 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes, as always, needed to win. Let's look at the states we have not called yet. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead there still, 51.1% of the vote, ahead of Kamala Harris, who has 47.8% of the vote. Trump leads with more than 214,000 votes. That's with an estimated 92% of the vote in. Michigan now, Donald Trump in the lead, 52.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 215,000 vote lead. That's with 62% of the estimated vote in from the Wolverine state. The Badger state of Wisconsin now, Donald Trump, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.2% of the vote. Donald Trump, more than 113,000 votes ahead of Harris, with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. In Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Harris with 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 12,000 vote lead. That's with only 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Still a lot of votes to count in Arizona. Nevada now, they've really counted a lot of votes. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 33,000 vote lead. That is with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. Last time we looked, it was only 2%. John King, look at that. Your buddies in Nevada reporting their votes there. Thanks so much. We have a major projection in the battle for control of Congress. And CNN can now project that Republicans will win back control of the United States Senate. We can make this projection because CNN projects Republicans win the U.S. Senate seat in Nebraska. The GOP picking up enough seats to reclaim the majority that they lost 4 years ago. This is a huge victory for Donald Trump's party, as we're still waiting the final outcome of the presidential race. And Dana Bash, there were a lot of questions in the air about what was going to happen. Ultimately, what happened with the U.S. Senate is what we generally thought was going to happen. Republicans now have control. Thanks, Dana. Let's bring you back to the key race alert and where we stand with the battleground states that we have not called yet. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.1% to Kamala Harris's 47.8%. Donald Trump has an almost 220,000 vote lead. That's with 93% of the estimated vote in from the great Keystone State. Michigan, Donald Trump up 52.4% to Harris's 45.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 244,000 vote lead in Michigan with 66% of the estimated vote in. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump 51.2%, Harris 47.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 120,000 vote lead with an estimated 89% of the vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead 50% to Harris's 49.1%. Donald Trump has a 16,000 plus vote lead with an estimated 53% of the vote in from Arizona. In Nevada, Donald Trump in the lead there, 51% to Kamala Harris's 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 37,000 vote lead with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. John King. It's election night in America, and forget the pundits and forget the polls. It is time to count votes. Let's take a look at where we are in the electoral math. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. There are still a number of states that are outstanding. Let's bring them to you now. Pennsylvania. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Harris, 48%. Donald Trump with a more than 189,000 vote lead with 94% of the estimated vote in the Commonwealth. Michigan, Donald Trump, 52.1%. Harris, 46.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 236,000 vote lead, 69% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, Donald Trump, 51.3%. Kamala Harris, 47.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 123,000 vote lead, 90% of the estimated vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump 50%, Harris 49.1%. Donald Trump with a 16,368 vote lead with 53% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Nevada, now Donald Trump 51.1%, Harris 47.3%. Donald Trump with a more than 38,000 vote lead over Harris with an estimated 71% of the estimated vote. I have two more I want to show you right now because, as you know, Maine and Nebraska award their electoral votes according to congressional district. Maine's second congressional district, that is the more rural part of the district, Donald Trump is in the lead there, 53.9% of the vote. Harris, 43.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a almost 14,000 vote lead there in Maine's second congressional district. That's with just over a third of the estimated vote there. Then Nebraska, this is actually the congressional district number one, not the more competitive one. But in this one, which has not been called yet, Donald Trump has 51.5% of the vote. Harris with 46.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with an 11,311 vote lead there. That's with 75% of the estimated vote in Nebraska's District 1. Nebraska's District 2, though, we should note, John, is actually the one that we're really keeping an eye on. It is election night in America, and Americans have voted, and the votes are being counted. Let's look at the electoral vote math right now. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes. Obviously, 270 electoral votes are needed to win. So let's look at those states that remain outstanding. Pennsylvania, outstanding in so many ways. Donald Trump has 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 48% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 193,000 vote lead there, with an estimated 95% of the vote counted in that great Commonwealth. In Michigan, the Wolverine State, Donald Trump 52.2%, Kamala Harris 45.9%. Donald Trump with a 253,000 plus vote lead with 71% of the estimated vote in the great state of Michigan. In Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51.3%, Kamala Harris 47.2%. Donald Trump leading by more than 121,000 votes, with an estimated 90% of the vote counted in Wisconsin. John King, those are the three blue wall states. They remain uncalled as of now, but Donald Trump leads in all three. Thank you so much. And we have a major projection. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is a huge, huge achievement for Donald Trump and a huge bucket of electoral votes, 19 of them, for his path back to the presidency. As of right now, with those 19 electoral votes added from Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is within spitting distance of 270 electoral votes. He has 265 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. John King, Donald Trump is within a hair's breadth of being reelected president. All right, stand by for a projection, because CNN can now project that Kamala Harris will get that one electoral vote from Omaha. Nebraska gives its electoral votes. According to congressional district, Kamala Harris will get one of them. Donald Trump will get another one of them. Of the five, let's look at the electoral map. Donald Trump now has 266 electoral votes, because we just gave him one from Nebraska's, I think, first congressional district. Kamala Harris has 188 because we just gave her one from Nebraska's second congressional district. 270 are needed to win. Donald Trump needs only 4 more electoral votes in order to be the president. Dana? It's an historic election night, with Donald Trump poised to win back the White House. Let's take a look at where the electoral vote count stands right now. Donald Trump has 266 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 195 electoral votes. The magic number, obviously, 270 needed to win. Donald Trump is 4 short of that. So let's look at the states, the battleground states that we have not called yet. Michigan, Donald Trump 52.6%, Kamala Harris 45.6%. Donald Trump a 320,916 vote lead. That's with 81% of the estimated vote in from the Wolverine state. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump 51.1%, Kamala Harris 47.3%. Donald Trump with a 120,903 vote lead in a state with 94% of the estimated vote reported in. In Arizona, Donald Trump 50.4%, Kamala Harris 48.7%. Donald Trump with a 31,223 vote lead. That's with an estimated 54% of Arizona's vote reported in. Nevada, Donald Trump 51.5%, Kamala Harris 46.8%. Donald Trump with a 51,805 vote lead with 76% of the estimated vote in. So, John King, what are we waiting for?
Donald Trump now with 266 electoral votes, just 4 shy of the 270 needed for him to return to the White House. There's another battle going on in Washington, the fight for control of the House of Representatives. Boris Sanchez is looking at the current balance of power there. Boris?
Yeah, Jake, 2 important projections to bring you 2 flips in crossover districts, beginning with the 22nd House District in New York. This is up in upstate New York in the Syracuse area, a district that 4 years ago Joe Biden won. Democrat John Mannion defeating Republican incumbent Brandon Williams to take that seat, and we anticipate flip it for Democrats. The opposite happening in Pennsylvania's 8th district. This is in the Scranton area, a district that Donald Trump won, one that Democratic incumbent Matt Cartwright was the representative for, but now Rob Bresnahan, who had never held public office in his life, he's a business executive. He is now projected to win that seat in the House of Representatives. So what does this mean for the magic number, the number that Democrats need to take control of the chamber? As you can see, Democrats have to pick up 7 Republican seats. They are currently leading in 9 races where Republicans hold seats. But the math starts to get a little bit complicated there, because keep in mind, there are districts where Republicans are leading in races where Democrats hold seats. So if you do some math, while it appears that it's trending in Democrats' direction, they may come up short if this trend continues. Let's get you an update on some key race alerts now. These are results coming into CNN as we're getting them. In New York's 19th district, this is in the Ithaca area. Josh Riley, a Democratic attorney, is currently about 3,600 votes in front of freshman Republican incumbent Mark Molinaro, 94% of the vote in that New York district. Another one to tell you about, this one on Long Island, another district Joe Biden won 4 years ago. Laura Gillen, a town supervisor in House District 4, is currently leading Republican incumbent Anthony D'Esposito, a former NYPD officer, by roughly 6,148 votes, 92% of the vote in this district. Looking at the first House district in Arizona, this is the northern suburbs of Phoenix. You have Amish Shah, the Democrat in this race, an ER doctor, a slim margin, 742 votes ahead of incumbent Republican David Schweikert. Obviously, still a close race there, 56% of the vote in. Now, let's get you some more key races where Republicans are leading. Let's take a look, beginning with the state, or rather the district in Pennsylvania in the Lehigh Valley area. This is House District 7. You have Ryan McKenzie leading Democratic incumbent Susan Wild by roughly 5,500 votes, 99% of the vote in there. It looks like it's trending in Republicans' direction. In Michigan, House District 7, Tom Barrett leading by 17,000 votes against Curtis Hurdle, 97% of the vote there in the 7th district. This is in the Lansing area. This is actually the district that's got an open seat because Alyssa Slotkin is running for Senate. Keep your eyes on this one. Meantime, a key race alert from Alaska. Nick Begich, the Republican in this race, leading the Democratic incumbent Mary Peltola. She's a freshman who's actually the first Native Alaskan ever voted to Congress. This is a ranked choice, sort of open format in Alaska, so you'll see her going up against a fellow Democrat. But right now, Begich, 5,800 votes ahead, 55% of the vote in this at-large district, obviously Alaska, a state that Donald Trump won. So what does all this mean for the balance of power in the House of Representatives? The raw numbers right now, 169 for Democrats with 1 pickup, 197 for Republicans with 4 pickups, 69 seats remaining up for grabs. Anderson, as you know, 218 needed for control of the chamber.
All right, as we said, some key states have not been officially called, so stand by for a key race alert. All right, we are waiting still for the official calls from Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. You can see where the result stands right now in Arizona with 11 electoral votes up for grabs. Donald Trump with a 48,000 vote lead at this point, 55% of the vote in. But again, he is ahead there by 2.5 points. In Nevada, 6 electoral votes up for stake. Donald Trump ahead by some 57,000 votes there, almost 5%. That's with 88% in. Again, both Arizona and Nevada were states that Joe Biden won 4 years ago. If these results hold, they would be flips for Donald Trump. The same is true in Michigan with 15 electoral votes. Donald Trump there up by 230,000 votes with 86% in. This was a state Joe Biden won by more than 100,000 votes. So a major flip perhaps in store in Michigan. Finally, in Wisconsin with 10 electoral votes, Donald Trump ahead by more than 107,000 votes at this point. Wisconsin's a state that's always very close, within 10, 20, 30,000 votes in elections since the year 2000. That 107,000 vote lead with 96% in seems very large, although we are still waiting for a few more votes to be counted there before we have an official call. Let's take a look at what that means as far as the electoral map. Donald Trump has 266 electoral votes at this point. He only needs 270 to win. So he is a state or two away at this point from the official call that he will be the 47th president of the United States. Vice President Kamala Harris currently at 205 electoral votes. Again, no official call just yet, but it does seem very close, perhaps even inevitable. Let's go over to Phil Mattingly now at the Magic Wall. Let's talk about where we haven't called. Some of these states we're talking about right now. Michigan, Wisconsin. Let's start there. All right. Thanks so much, Casey. Stand by for a CNN projection. All right. And we do have breaking news. CNN is ready to make a projection in New Jersey. CNN now projects that Vice President Harris will carry the state of New Jersey. You can see she's some 200,000 votes ahead right now. less than 5 points ahead. She will get New Jersey's 14 electoral votes. What's surprising is that it's taken us until, 4:35 a.m. Eastern time to call New Jersey. It's stunning, in fact, that it has taken this long. One of the biggest surprises is how well Donald Trump has done in some of the bluer states that we're used to. We will talk about that extensively, but right now, Kamala Harris, we do project, will win New Jersey and its 14 electoral votes. Just in terms of where that puts the electoral map right now, that gives her 219 electoral votes, but the big important number is the one on top of that. Donald Trump's at 266, just 4 electoral votes away from the 270 that he needs to officially win the White House. But you can see over there on the map, those states in white are the ones that we have not projected a winner yet in. And you can see Alaska with its 3 electoral votes leaning heavily toward Trump. Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, all leaning toward Trump right now. So he is absolutely poised to get to that 270 and perhaps soon. Still, there are votes left to count. Our voting desk is tracking them all. We're going to get an update right after a quick break. You're watching CNN's special live coverage of Election Night in America. Welcome back to CNN's special live coverage, Election Night in America. Donald Trump absolutely on the brink of clinching 270 electoral votes and the White House. But control of Congress is also at stake here. CNN has already projected the Senate for the Republicans, but still some key Senate races are still outstanding. We are lucky to have Jessica Dean tracking it all. Jessica, what's the latest?
All right, let me walk you through some of these key race alerts that we have been following as this night has gone on. And these are in the blue wall states that we've paid so much attention to. So let's start first in Pennsylvania, where you see Dave McCormick, the Republican, leading the incumbent Senator Bob Casey, 49.2 to 48.2. That's with 95% of the vote in. Look, this was a seat Democrats certainly hoping to hang on to. Dave McCormick, you'll remember, ran last time in the primary against Mehmet Oz. He did not win, so this is his second try at it. Let's take a look at our next state here, Michigan, where you'll see Mike Rogers leading Alyssa Slotkin, a current representative, at 48.5 to 48.4. Just a razor-thin margin there in Michigan, with 91% of the vote in. And also in Wisconsin, where you have Eric Hovde leading the incumbent Democrat Tammy Baldwin, 49.8% to 48.1%. Again, 94% of the vote in there. Again, all 3 of those would be pickups for Republicans who already control the House. Because take a look at the Senate. The balance of power with Republicans at 51 to Democrats 41. They've already picked up 2 seats tonight. So now the question is, John, will they continue to pick up more seats? That is what we're tracking. Again, all 3 of those blue wall states, should they go Republican, would be pickups for the Republicans.
Yeah, very close, though, especially in Michigan right now. The question is, how long are Donald Trump's coattails there? We could find out in the next several minutes or hours, because the former president appears to be close to crossing 270 electoral votes, the threshold he needs to win. Stay with us. Our special live coverage continues right after this. Four Electoral College votes from victory. Welcome to CNN's special live coverage, Election Night in America. I'm John Berman, and it is just seconds after 5 a.m. here on the East Coast. The presidential race is officially undecided, but officially is doing a lot of work in that sense. The winner appears more and more obvious by the minute. Donald Trump is on the cusp of clinching the Oval Office and becoming the 47th president of the United States. The battlegrounds that we said would decide the race have all broken for or may soon bend toward the Republican. The 3 big ones already in the Trump column: North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania. The 4 still on the board heading into the 9th inning and showing a Trump lead, a sizable Trump lead: Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Again, ahead or declared in all 7 of the battleground states. So how did Donald Trump do it? Like 2016, he ran up the score in the rural areas, but unlike 2016 or 2020, he seems to be rewriting some of the DNA of his political coalition, cutting in to the traditional Democratic advantages with women, perhaps black voters, definitely Latino voters. Some key states have not yet been called. Stand by for a key race alert. All right, as we just said, 4 states, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Still at this point, CNN has not made projections there, but let's walk through them one by one. In Arizona, with 11 electoral votes up for grabs, Donald Trump is ahead by some 50,000 votes, 48,000, with 55% of the vote in. Still a lot of votes to be counted there, but Donald Trump ahead. In Nevada, Donald Trump is ahead by 57,000 votes, which is a pretty sizable margin in a fairly small state. 89% of the vote in there. 6 electoral votes up for grabs. A fairly comfortable lead at this moment in Nevada. In Michigan, 15 electoral votes up for grabs. Trump with a 120,000 vote lead now. That actually has just grown over the last few minutes. 94% of the vote in. We will check very shortly to see where some of that new vote just came in. And in Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes up for grabs. Donald Trump ahead by 110,000 votes, 97% of the vote in. One important thing to remind you, every state you're looking at right there, states that Joe Biden won 4 years ago, states that Donald Trump is now leading in. Any one of these states at this point could put him up on top of the 270 electoral votes he needs to win the White House. Let's take a look right now at that math. You can see right now Donald Trump already has 266 electoral votes, Vice President Harris at 219. So practically any state still on this map, save Alaska now, would put him over the top. 270, and he is leading in almost all of these states, save New Hampshire and Maine at this point. So this night into the morning, very much in Donald Trump's favor. All right, this is CNN special live coverage, election night in America. Stand by for a key race alert. And these are the races we're still watching, even though Donald Trump clearly ahead in all 4 right now. Any one of these states would put him over 270 electoral votes, what he needs to win. You can see he is winning by 50,000 votes in Arizona. He's winning by 57,000 votes in Nevada, up by 120,000 votes in Michigan, and 110,000 votes currently in Wisconsin. As we said, he's at 266 electoral votes right now. Any one of those 4 states would put him over the 270 electoral votes that he would need to officially be the president-elect of the United States. And that moment could come at this point at any time. That's right, Casey. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris and making a political comeback unlike any in modern American politics. Now, we can make this projection now because CNN projects that Donald Trump has won Wisconsin. You can see right there, currently ahead by 30,000 votes with 99% of the vote in. Mr. Trump is only the 2nd former president in U.S. history to be reelected to the White House. He will return to office after 2 impeachments in his first term, followed by unprecedented criminal indictments and felony convictions. Mr. Trump scoring a landmark victory as he now heads back to power, leading a politically divided nation. Again, CNN projects that Donald J. Trump is elected the 47th president of the United States. Let's go over. Actually, let's just take a quick look at the wall here. We can see with Wisconsin, Donald Trump now has 276 electoral votes. Harris with 219. You need 270 to win. He is now over that mark. The 10 electoral votes in Wisconsin puts him over that threshold, and CNN now considers him the president-elect of the United States of America. Let's go over to the magic wall. Phil Mattingly is there. Let's talk about Wisconsin because those votes from Milwaukee that we were promised came in. That's what made the difference. The margin's actually a lot smaller for Trump than it had been, but still enough. All All right, welcome back to our special coverage. Donald Trump will now be the next president. He will have a Republican Senate, but at this point, we can't project who will control the House of Representatives. Jessica Dean has a new projection in that fight. Jessica.
That's right, John. We have some key CNN projections in this fight for the House. Let's start first in New York. That is the place where it really fueled Republicans' thin majority in the midterms. Let's take a look. Mike Lawler hanging on to his seat in the 17th district in the House, defeating Mondaire Jones. So again, that is something Republicans certainly wanted to see. Democrats hoping to flip that seat. Let's now move to Michigan. We're going to go to the 7th district. This was Alyssa Slotkin's seat. She's, of course, running for the Senate. And for this one, Tom Barrett picking this one up. This is a Republican pickup in the fight for the House. Let's go to the 8th district in Michigan. This is Dan Kilde's seat. He's retiring. This one is going to stay Democratic. Kristen McDonald-Rivet defeating Paul Jung in that race in the 8th district in Michigan. And in Wisconsin, the 3rd district. Let's take a look at this. You see Derek Van Orden winning there, the incumbent. So the Republicans keep that seat. And as I said, a lot of eyes now on the House. Will it become a check for President Trump as he takes office with a Republican Senate? Or will it stay Republican and make the Congress kind of a glide path for a lot of his legislation? This is the balance of power as it currently stands. Again, the magic number is 218 to control the House. Right now, Republicans sitting at 201 with 5 pickups so far. The Democrats at 177 with 2 pickups, 57 seats remaining. One thing to remember as we continue to get this data, a lot of these seats that they're hoping to flip, Democrats are out in California. And John, of course, that's going to take a while. They are notoriously slower in counting their ballots.
Yeah, I will say, though, those 5 Republican pickups makes it a lot harder for the Republicans to lose control and the Democrats to take back control, which is something the Democrats would love at this point. Some sign of success in this morning. Thank you so much, Jessica. Just a huge moment for the country. Donald Trump, as of minutes ago, has been elected the next president of the United States. You are watching CNN special live coverage, so stay with us. Welcome back to our special live coverage. CNN Now Election Day in America. Jessica Dean has a new projection in the U.S. Senate races. Jessica.
Yes, we do. CNN can now project that Tim Sheehy will be the next senator from Montana. Take a look at this. Tim Sheehy defeating John Tester, the Democratic incumbent there in Montana. This is a pickup for Republicans as they now seek to expand their new majority in the U.S. Senate, flipping control of the U.S. Senate in this election. Tester, long considered the most vulnerable incumbent that was running for re-election. You see there 52.8% to 45.4%. Sheehy was recruited by Montana's junior senator, Steve Daines, who's the head of the NRSC. He's a businessman who's never held elected office before. What does this mean for the balance of power? Well, we know that Republicans are already going to be controlling the U.S. Senate. Right now, they are holding 52 seats with 3 pickups, this being one of them. Democrats with 42 seats, including 1 independent. There are 6 seats that are outstanding, a lot of those still in the blue wall states that we have been watching overnight as well. John?
All right. All right, welcome back to the CNN special live coverage, Election Day in America. And we do have a key race alert in the battle for the Senate in the key battleground state of Michigan. Jessica Dean has that.
Yes, we do. Let's look at this key race alert. All right, let's look at Michigan, where we have Alyssa Slotkin now just ever so slightly leading Mike Rogers. You'll remember this is an open seat that the Democrats are hoping to hang on to. Alyssa Slotkin, former CIA analyst, had been in the House of Representatives running against Mike Rogers, who formerly had been in the House of Representatives and had also worked in law enforcement. Again, 96% of the vote in. We know that the Republicans have taken control of the Senate, currently with 52 seats, including 3 pickups. Now, this would not be a pickup for Democrats. This would be them holding on to a seat. But at this point, Democrats, of course, hoping for any good news that they could get in the Senate. The Michigan race still outstanding, but the alert here is that Alyssa Slotkin is leading ever so slightly, again, with just 96% of the vote in. John will continue to watch this race and other blue wall states still outstanding as well.
Hello, I'm Wolf Blitzer alongside Aaron Burnett. I want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world.
All right, Wolf, well, several battleground results are still being counted, but the race to 270 is over, and Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States. And this is CNN's special coverage of Election Day in America. Continued.
Donald Trump cruises to victory, winning a second term and capping off an astonishing political comeback. Trump dismantled the so-called blue wall, seizing on the economy and immigration to stifle Kamala Harris's abbreviated campaign. Let's take a closer look at his road to 270, and we can see it right there. You see in the Electoral College map all those red states for Trump, the blue states going to Kamala Harris. Right now, Trump has 276 Electoral College votes. You need 270, so he will be the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris, with 223 Electoral College votes right there. You can see it, what's going on. In the popular vote, Trump also wins, and this is significant, the popular vote. He's got 51%. Kamala Harris, 47.4%. This is with 89% of the estimated vote is in. He's up by more than 5 million votes. He has more than 71 million votes. She has more than 66 million votes. So Trump wins the popular vote, wins the electoral map, a major, major win for the former president of the United States. By the way, there are still several battleground states still uncalled. Stand by for a key race alert. All right, take a look at these states. We're still counting votes in these states. In Michigan right now, 15 electoral votes. With 98% of the estimated vote is in, Trump is ahead, 49.8% to 48.2%. He's ahead by some 93,000 plus votes in Michigan. In Arizona, with 11 electoral votes, 63% of the estimated vote is in. Trump is ahead 51.9% to 47.2%. He's up by a little bit more than 100,000 votes in Arizona. In Nevada, Trump is ahead there as well. 88% of the estimated vote is in. He has 51.5%. Kamala Harris has 46.8%. He's up by nearly 60,000 votes in Nevada, which has 6 electoral votes. I want to walk over to Phil Mattingly at the Magic Wall to get a little bit more on how we got to this historic moment. While Republicans will now control both the executive branch as well as the U.S. Senate, control of the House of Representatives is still unclear. CNN's chief congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is following all of this for us. So what's the latest, Manu?
Yeah, Wolf, the Republicans do have control of the United States Senate. Remember, they just had to net one seat if Donald Trump were to win the presidency. They picked up 3 last night. Right now, the Senate is at 52-42. There's 3 pickups. Those are in 3 states: West Virginia, Montana, and Ohio. Now all in the Republican column. Those used to be Democratic seats, but they could potentially grow their Senate majority as well. They are leading right now in 2 states at the moment. That is in Nevada. That is also in Pennsylvania. Republicans could potentially get up to 54 seats in the Senate. There are a couple of others we still have not called yet in purple states, like in Wisconsin, and that Democrats right now currently have an edge in. Potentially, we'll see what turns out there, but Republicans are feeling very good about the Senate. So where do things stand about the potential of Democrats having any power in Washington? The United States House is the big question at the moment. 204 seats the Republicans have. They've picked up 5. Democrats have picked up 2. They have 182 seats. Remember, they had to net 4 seats to take back the United States House. And right now, they are not on path to do that. Right now, Democrats are leading in just 5 Republican districts. That is why this is complicated, is that Democrats are trailing in some seats as well. There are 3 seats Republicans are leading in Democratic districts, which shows you the complication that they face in taking back the House majority. Now, let's drill down into why the Democrats are struggling, unable to, at the moment, get there. Don Bacon, this is a seat in Nebraska, a seat in which Joe Biden, district he carried pretty easily. Kamala Harris carried last night. Democrats thought that this would flip. this cycle. That is the moment is not happening. Don Bacon, the incumbent Republican, he is ahead by 8,300 votes against the Democratic challenger Tony Vargas in that 2nd congressional district in Nebraska. There's 95% of the vote in. Republicans feeling very good about that seat. There are a couple other key seats in California, which Democrats thought that they could pick up. John Duarte, the incumbent Republican, he is ahead by 3,100 votes against the Democratic challenger Adam Gray. 48% of the vote is in. Still more vote to count, but at the moment, Republicans are feeling pretty good about that seat. And also another seat in California as well. This is with Congressman Mike Garcia. He is an incumbent, someone from the Southern California, from the Los Angeles area. Democrats had high hopes of this Biden district to flip. Well, at the moment, Garcia is ahead by 5,300 votes against his Democratic challenger, George Whitesides. There's still some vote coming in. 65% of the estimated vote is in. There are still some pickup opportunities from Democrats, including in New York. One of them, the ones we're looking at, is on Long Island. Anthony D'Esposito, the Republican incumbent. He's a freshman there. He is trailing with his Democratic challenger by 6,100 votes. There is 92% of the vote in. Perhaps Democrats could pick that up. But as you can see, this is complicated. There's so few districts that are truly at risk of flipping. Republicans could pick up some. Democrats could pick up others. Can they get their net of 4 seats? It is a very complicated path at the moment to get 218 seats for the Democrats to pick up control of the House, which is why the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, put out a statement, Wolf, this morning saying he's confident the GOP will retain power in the House.
Wolf. Keep it. Republicans, as you probably know by now, have flipped the U.S. Senate, while control of the House of Representatives still pretty much up for grabs. CNN's chief congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is following all these developments for us. Tell us the latest, Manu.
Yeah, look, well, if we're looking at the margin, how big of a Republican majority that they'll have in the United States Senate, because each seat is so significant. An additional seat makes it harder for the minority party to get back in the majority in future election cycles. Also makes it easier to pass an agenda, easier to confirm nominees, including to the Supreme Court. So each race is so significant. Right now, Republicans have a 52-42 majority in the Senate. They picked up 3 last night in red states, in West Virginia, in Ohio, in Montana. And right now, they are currently leading in 2 seats that were Democratic seats. Right now, there are 3 other Democratic seats in purple states in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona. Democrats have the lead in those. But in 2 Democratic seats in other purple states, the Republicans are now leading. Let's look at those states that we can drill down a little further. Nevada. This is a big surprise. Coming into this race, the Democratic incumbent, Jackie Rosen, was viewed pretty good that she had a comfortable lead, according to the public polling. But right now, Sam Brown, an Army veteran, is ahead by 1,190 votes, the narrowest of margins in this race. I've been talking to both sides this morning. They expect this to come down to the wire. There's 88% that are reporting in this race. So Republicans could potentially pick that up. Maybe the Democrats can as well. We'll see what happens there. And in Pennsylvania, a 3-time term incumbent Democratic Senator, Bob Casey, a longtime fixture of Pennsylvania politics, is losing by 48,469 votes to the Republican businessman David McCormick. And with 97% of the vote here in, Republicans are feeling very confident that they can have at least a 53-47 majority in the United States Senate. So do Democrats have any opportunity to have any lever of power in Washington? Let's look at the United States House right now. The Democrats have to pick up 4 seats, a net of 4 seats to be back in power in the U.S. House. Right now, though, Republicans have picked up 5 seats. Democrats have picked up just 2 seats. They need to get 218 to be in the majority. There's still 49 seats that we have not called yet. However, the battleground is so narrow in the U.S. House. There are not that many that are truly at play. And at the moment, Democrats are leading in 5 Republican districts. Perhaps they're confident about some of those seats. But this is a problem for Democrats because Republicans are leading in 3 Democratic districts, which makes the path to get to the net of 4 seats even more difficult. But Wolf, we are going to be looking very closely in those House districts in New York and the suburbs of New York, and as well as California, some in Arizona as well, some that have not been called yet, but at the moment, Democrats will acknowledge their path to the majority. They got to really have run the table to get back into the majority in the House. Republicans are growing very confident that they have the majority. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, putting out a statement this morning saying just that. But even if they do have the majority, Wolf, it is going to be a razor-thin majority once again for the GOP if they manage to hold on to power.
Yeah, lots at stake in that balance of power in the House of Representatives. Manu Raju, thank you very, very much. Still to come, global leaders are now jockeying for meetings with Donald Trump. Stay with CNN. Our special coverage continues right after this short break. Hello, I'm Wolf Blitzer alongside Aaron Burnett. I want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world. We're just hours away from Vice President Kamala Harris addressing the nation after President-elect Donald Trump reached the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. This is CNN's special coverage of Election Day in America continued. Donald Trump makes history, winning a second term. We have learned that Kamala Harris has actually now reached out to President-elect Trump, and she will speak publicly at 4 p.m. Eastern. More on that coming up in just a few moments. Republicans have also seized control of the U.S. Senate for the first time in 4 years. The House of Representatives is still too close to call. Let's take a look at the numbers that we're seeing right now. You can see in the U.S. Senate right now, 52 Republicans, 42 Democrats, 6 seats remaining outstanding, 3 Republican pickups in the Senate, as you can see right there. In the House of Representatives, you need 218 to control the House. Right now, the Republicans have 204, the Democrats 182. Democrats have 2 pickups, the Republicans so far 5 pickups, 49 seats remaining undeclared so far in the U.S. House of Representatives. There are also several battleground states still uncalled. Stand by for a key race alert right now. All right, let's take a look at some of these states where we still haven't made a projection. In Michigan right now, 15 electoral votes. 99% of the estimated vote is in. Donald Trump maintains a lead, 49.8% to 48.3%. His lead is a little bit more than 83,000 votes in Michigan right now. In Arizona, another key state, 11 electoral votes. 63% of the estimated vote is in. Trump has 51.9%. Kamala Harris 47.2%. He has a lead of a little bit more than 100,000 votes over Kamala Harris in Arizona. In Nevada, where the 89% of the estimated vote is in, Trump maintains a lead, 51.7% to 46.6%. His lead is almost 65,000 votes in Nevada with its 6 electoral vote. All right, Congressman, I want you to stand by for a second. We have a projection we want to make right now. We have a CNN projection that's going on in Michigan. Take a look at this right now. CNN projects that President-elect Donald Trump will win the state of Michigan and its 15 electoral votes. It's another important sign of just how sweeping his win has been. This is the third of the so-called blue wall states to be won by Trump after Pennsylvania and Wisconsin both went his way. Trump won them 8 years ago, but lost those states to Joe Biden back in 2020. Let's take a closer look at the numbers right now. We'll show you what we have. John Berman, go ahead. Give us the latest.
Manu Raju is back. So, Manu, when you boil it down to what's going to determine who controls the House, what races are you watching right now?
Yeah, look, there are several races that have not been called yet, but I got to tell you, Aaron, it is a complicated path to this House majority for the Democratic Party at the moment. Remember, they had to pick up a net of 4 seats in order to be back in the majority in the House. But right now, Republicans have 5 pickups they have already that we've called so far. 2 Democratic pickups. So the Republicans actually have a net of 3 at the moment. And Democrats, they are leading in 5 Republican districts. But this is the problem. The Republicans are ahead in Democratic districts, including 3 Democratic districts. So why are they having problems? Let's go dig a little deeper here into some of these key races. Here in Iowa, the 1st congressional district in Iowa, Democrats thought they would have a really good chance of flipping this seat. The incumbent Republican Meredith Miller Meeks, they saw her as clearly vulnerable. She is hanging on by a thread, 799 votes ahead against the Democrat who challenged her in the last cycle, Christina Bohannon, with 99% of the vote in. Republicans feeling they can sneak away with that one. And also in Nebraska, Don Bacon, he's an incumbent Republican, someone who represents a district that Joe Biden carried in 2020, that Kamala Harris carried last night. This time, though, Bacon is at the moment prevailing, 8,300 votes ahead of his Democratic challenger who challenged him last time. And with 95% in, Bacon is feeling very good about hanging on to that seat. But there are still some pickup opportunities for Democrats, including in Arizona. The Republican incumbent, Juan Ciscomani, a freshman seen as vulnerable going in. He is down narrowly to the Democratic challenger, Kirsten Engel. That's 4,100 votes behind her right at the moment. There's still, though, a lot of vote to count here. 59% of that vote is in. And there are still some pickup opportunities in New York. There are two for Democrats in New York. One of them is in upstate, the House Congressional District 19, where the incumbent Republican Mark Molinaro is trailing his Democratic opponent Josh Riley by 3,600 votes. And now Democrats believe they can pick up that seat because there's 94% of that vote that is now in. So why is this so important? Because as you mentioned, Aaron, Democrats, they lost control of the United States Senate. They lost the White House. And they look at the Senate right now, 52-42 right now, the Republican majority. They've had 3 pickups so far. They could potentially get another one in Pennsylvania. That looks very good for them. That means a 53-47 Senate, and they're leading in another one in Nevada in the United States Senate. So up to 54 seats potentially, as a handful of other seats have yet to be called. So that's what makes the House so important, but a difficult path back to the majority for the Democrats.
We have a CNN projection for you right now. Take a look at this. CNN projects that Tammy Baldwin, the senator from Wisconsin, Democrat, will be reelected. She'll defeat the Republican challenger, Eric Hovde. Tammy Baldwin, the Democrat incumbent, will win the Senate seat in Wisconsin. An important win for the Democrats right now. Tammy Baldwin has been a fixture in Wisconsin politics since back in 1992 when she was first elected to the state's legislature. But this was a very, very tight race, and let's take a look a bit closer at the results right now. If we see with 99% of the estimated vote is in, Tammy Baldwin, the incumbent Democrat, with 49.4% to Eric Hovde's 48.5%. She's winning by some 27,477 votes right now. A big win for the Democrats in the state of Wisconsin. Tammy Baldwin reelected to the Senate. An important win for the Democrats. Huge questions indeed. Everybody stand by. We have another CNN projection for you right now. In the important state of Michigan, CNN now projects that Democrat Elissa Slotkin will win her Senate race against Republican Mike Rogers. This is a critical win for Democrats who've lost control of the Senate. In any case, she will succeed Democratic Senator Debbie Stabenow, who's retiring. Take a look at the numbers. We'll put them up on the screen. There you see him right there. Elissa Slotkin with 48.6%. Mike Rogers, 48.3%. 16,494 votes. She's ahead. Slotkin's ahead of Mike Rogers by, that's what, 97% of the vote now in. This is a big win for the Democrats.
Yeah.
Dana, thanks very much. John just mentioned the House. So we're going to go to CNN's Manu Raju, who has a CNN projection to bring us into key House races. Manu?
Yeah, Anderson, CNN can now project a Republican pickup in the race for the House, representing the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. Republican GOP State Rep Ryan McKenzie defeating the incumbent Democratic Congresswoman Susan Wild in that district. It was a district that Joe Biden narrowly carried in 2020, a bellwether district and a big GOP pickup. We also have a prediction out of New Mexico, where there's a Democratic hold in that race. Gabriel Vasquez, the incumbent Democratic congressman, holding on to his seat, fending off a challenge from Republican Yvette Herrell in that race. Now, what does this all mean, and who's leading in which districts at this key moment in the race for the House? Well, Democrats have some advantages, and Republicans do as well. Democrats are leading in a handful of states and Republican districts, and Republicans are leading in a handful of other districts. But in order to win back majority control of the House, Democrats need to have a net of 4 seats altogether. And right now, as you see, Republicans are leading in 2 Democratic districts. In order to get a full majority in the United States House, there needs to be 218 seats to get that majority. But at the moment, the Democrats have a bit of a fraught path to that majority, given the fact that Republicans have picked up a net of 6 seats so far. They're potentially could pick up a couple more. Democrats may pick up a few as well. That may not meet the net 4 seats to get the majority, which is why at the moment, Anderson, both the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is projecting confidence that the GOP will hold the House. We're not ready to project that yet, but the path to the majority for the Democrats at the moment is complicated.
Welcome back. Republicans are ousting Democrats in several key races to secure the majority in the Senate, and there are still several races to be called. I want to go to Manu Raju for that. What are you saying?
Yeah, right now, Republicans will have at least a 52-48 Senate because they've picked up 3 seats in red states. That includes in Ohio and in Montana and West Virginia. But that majority could very well grow. And let's look at why. In one race and in Pennsylvania, where the 3-term incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey, he is on the ropes. He is down 27,000 votes against Republican businessman Dave McCormick. McCormick led a major hedge fund. He spent some millions of his own dollars in this race, but he is now ahead with a 48.9% to 48.5%. And look, 97% of the vote is in. Republicans feel very good about adding another seat to their majority. And that's not the only one. Also in Nevada, this was a big surprise. In fact, at the beginning, headed into Tuesday, Sam Brown, the Republican candidate there, an Army veteran, was seen as a bit of an underdog. But he is ahead in this race by 3,800 votes against the incumbent first-term Senator Democrat Jackie Rosen. 3,800 votes, 47.4% to 47.1%. 89% of the vote in, still more to go. But I've talked to Republicans and Democrats who believe this is going to come down to the slimmest of margins. There is another race, a purple state that we have not called, in Arizona, a state in which the Democratic candidate Ruben Gallego running ahead of the top of his ticket. He's beating Kerry Lake, the Republican challenger, someone who ran unsuccessfully for governor 2 years ago. He's beating Kerry Lake by 59,000 votes with 63% in. So there's still some more votes to count in Arizona, but Democrats feel good about keeping that seat. But, there's some questions here, Aaron, about why it matters, because the Republicans already have a majority, 52-48. What's the difference between 53-47 or 54-46? Well, there is a significant difference. It would give more of a buffer to incoming President Trump's agenda. It would allow him to confirm nominees, particularly to the Supreme Court, even easier if you lose some races. And perhaps most significantly, the minority party would have a harder time digging out of the minority in the successive midterm election and the 2026, 2028 elections and the like. So every seat so significant here, Aaron, which is why we're looking at these very closely. Republicans could have a 52-48 Senate, but it could be as high as 54-46. Huge news here today.
All right. Thank you very much, Caitlin and Kristen. And let's go now to Manu Raju, because on this issue of the balance of power, he's got another projection.
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. In the race for control of the United States House, CNN can now project the Democrats will hold a seat in a closely watched district in Central Virginia, the 7th Congressional District. Eugene Vindman, the Democrat, defeating the Republican Derek Anderson in that closely watched race. Vindman, a former legal advisor in the National Security Council, whose brother actually played a key role in the first Trump impeachment. Eugene Vindman beating Derek Anderson in that key race. So what does this all mean for the overall balance of power in the United States House? Remember, Democrats need to pick up a net of 4 seats to take back the House, but right now they are falling short. There are 6 Republican pickups so far compared to 2 Democratic pickups. There are 36 seats remaining and really just very few opportunities to pick up seats. Now, why are Democrats falling short? Let's break that down a little further. Look at Nebraska. This is a seat that is now currently occupied by Congressman Don Bacon, who is a Republican. It's a seat that a district that Joe Biden carried by 6.4% in 2020. Democrats thought they could pick that up, but they are losing in that race. 8,300 votes. Tony Vargas, the Democratic candidate, is behind Don Bacon with 95% reporting in that race. But that's not it. Also in California, another key pickup opportunity for Democrats. They thought they were going to be able to beat John Duarte. He's an incumbent Republican. That's a district that Joe Biden carried by 13 points in 2020. But look, Duarte is ahead by 3,100 votes against his Democratic challenger, Adam Gray, with 48% reporting. Still a long way to go, but one that Republicans think they can hang on to. And this was also just a recent change. Arizona's seat. Juan Ciscomani, he is an incumbent Republican, a freshman. Democrats had hoped to pick off his seat as well, but now he is ahead. This was a new batch of votes that just came out, he's ahead by 417 votes. Obviously, a razor-thin margin. It could potentially go either way. There's still a lot more to go. So where do other races stand at the moment? Right now, Democrats are leading in 4 Republican seats. That's perhaps good news for the Democrats, but this is the bad news for them. 2 seats Republicans are leading in Democratic districts, which shows you, Aaron, why Democrats' path back to the majority is so fraught. Yes, they're up in some, but they're down in some, and getting that net of 4 seats is going to be very difficult. But one thing is very clear. Even if Republicans do maintain control of the House, Aaron, Speaker Mike Johnson would have a very narrow majority like he had in this past Congress. Once again, could have that in this Congress, and that's not always an easy recipe to legislate.
Abby and Jeff, thanks so much. And a little housekeeping now. CNN can now project the Vice President, Kamala Harris, will win the state of Maine in 3 of the state's 4 electoral votes. Remember, Maine, like Nebraska, awards its electoral votes according to congressional district as well. Donald Trump is picking up that 1 electoral vote by winning Maine's 2nd congressional district. That brings Mr. Trump's total electoral votes as of this hour to 100. All right, Anderson, thanks so much. Yeah, we have some more unfinished business. CNN can project that Donald Trump will be the winner of the state of Alaska with its 3 electoral votes. Donald Trump wins Alaska, as you can see on the board there. That only leaves Nevada and Arizona uncalled by CNN as of right now. Donald Trump's big win last night, of course, smashed the Democratic coalition. So we're going to dig into our exit poll data for clues next as to where some key voting blocks are shifting with Trump heading back to the White House. Plus, we're going to track those outstanding contests in the fight for control of the House of Representatives. Stay with us. Welcome back to Election Night in America. Continued tonight. Former President Donald Trump is preparing for his return to Washington after nearly 4 years in political exile. The White House is set. But let's dive into the balance of power on Capitol Hill. Republicans, we know, will take control of the U.S. Senate, but the outcome in the U.S. House of Representatives remains uncertain at this hour. Boris Sanchez is looking at where things stand. Boris?
Yeah, Jake, the House is still up for grabs, but things are trending in a specific direction. I'll explain in just a moment. First, let's look at the state of play, the balance of power in the U.S. House. Democrats hold 191 seats with 2 pickups. Republicans 208 with 6 pickups. 36 seats remain yet to be determined. You need 218 for control of the chamber. So you see, Republicans are only about 10 seats away. When it comes to Democrats trying to take control of the chamber, let's talk about the magic number that they need. Right now, Democrats need 8 Republican seats. They need to flip those 8 Republican seats to take control of the chamber. They're currently leading in 4 Republican districts, and that's not really an indicator of the whole picture because Republicans are currently leading in 2 seats where Democrats hold that district. So really, it's a net gain of 2 seats for Democrats, far below the 8 that they would need. Let's look at some key race alerts right now to show you where things stand in 2 very important races. The first in New York's 4th district. This is in Long Island, a district that Joe Biden won by double digits back in 2020. There, Laura Gillen, the town supervisor, has a lead of about 6,000 votes against incumbent Republican Congressman Anthony D'Esposito. D'Esposito, a former NYPD detective. 92% of the vote in that district in New York. The Democrat in the lead, poised to potentially flip it. The opposite is true in Alaska's at-large district. Here, you have Republican Nick Begich currently leading against incumbent Democratic Congresswoman Mary Peltola. Peltola, a freshman, the first Native Alaskan to ever serve in the U.S. Congress. She actually won 2 years ago in large part because Alaska has ranked choice voting, and she went up against 2 Republicans who effectively canceled each other out. Now, only going up against 1 Republican, you see where it stands. He's 11,000 votes ahead, 71% of the vote in Alaska. Jake?
And welcome back to our special coverage. Election Night in America continued more than 2 years after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and left the issue up to the states. Voters in 10 states cast ballots on whether to cement reproductive rights, abortion rights, in their state constitutions. CNN projects that voters in Maryland and Colorado and Montana all enshrined a constitutional right to abortion in their states' constitutions. In Nevada and Arizona, voters passed measures protecting abortion, legal abortion, up to the point of viability, which rejected the 15-week ban in the state of Arizona. Missouri voters also narrowly rejected their state's near-total ban, establishing a constitutional right up to the point of fetal viability. New York enshrined a broad set of rights into the Constitution, including the right to an abortion. In Nebraska, 2 dueling measures were on the ballot regarding abortion. Voters there keeping the state's ban on abortions after 12 weeks of a pregnancy and rejecting a separate, more expansive measure. A Florida ballot amendment also fell short. It failed to meet the 60% majority needed for passage, keeping in place a 6-week ban there. In South Dakota, that state's near total ban will also remain in place. Dana? All right, Abby, thanks so much. Right now, we want to get an update on the ongoing fight for control of the U.S. House of Representatives, and Boris Sanchez is covering that for us. Boris, where do things stand at this hour?
Yeah, Jake, the House of Representatives is still up for grabs, but things are trending in one specific direction. Let's take a look at the balance of power, the state of play for the chamber. 191 seats held by Democrats with 2 pickups, 208 seats held by Republicans with 6 pickups. You'll notice Republicans only need 10 more seats to take control of the chamber. Currently, there are 36 that are still getting ironed out as we get more votes in. So what does this mean for the magic number that Democrats need to take control of the chamber from Republicans? Democrats have to pick up 8 Republican seats. Currently, they lead in 4 races in Republican districts, but complicating matters, Republicans lead in 2 races where Democrats hold seats. If you do the math, that's a net gain of 2 seats, way fewer than the 8 they would need to take control of the chamber. But not all the votes have been counted. So let's get you some key race alerts now as we're getting live results slowly trickling into CNN. Beginning with House District 19 in New York. This is in upstate New York, the Binghamton, Ithaca area. There, Democratic Attorney Josh Riley currently with a 3,800 vote lead ahead of incumbent Republican Congressman Mark Molinaro. He's a freshman. They both have sort of moderated stances throughout this race, but right now Riley has a almost 4,000 vote lead with 94% of the vote left there. Meantime, zooming out to the West Coast, this is the 47th district in California. Scott Baugh, the Republican in this race, ahead of Dae Min by about 1,000 votes. This is the district left with an open seat because Katie Porter decided to run for Senate. She, of course, lost to Adam Schiff in the primary, who wound up winning a Senate seat last night. Here, a district won by Joe Biden 4 years ago. Baugh with a 1,133 vote lead, 69% of the vote in there. Again, these votes are slowly trickling in, Jake, but we're keeping track of them as they come in. We have some breaking news into CNN. 5 projections to bring you now in House races. These are just into CNN. We are projecting that former Congressman Cleo Fields, a Democrat, will represent Louisiana 6. This is a seat drawn after a federal court mandated the state have another majority black district. This seat, a pickup for Democrats. Meantime, in Nevada, Democrat Dina Titus has won re-election in Nevada's 1st House district. Titus is a fixture in Nevada politics, previously serving in the state Senate. Also, in Nevada's 4th district, Democrat Stephen Horsford has won re-election in the 4th district there. He's perhaps best known as the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus.
And Democratic Congressman Don Davis has won a 2nd term in North Carolina. Davis is an Air Force veteran, was one of just 6 Democrats to vote for a resolution that condemned Vice President Harris's handling of the border. And Montana's 1st district will send Republican Ryan Zinke back to Washington. Zinke, of course, served as Interior Secretary during the first Trump administration. Now, we should note that none of these races is seen as an upset, but they do move us closer to finding out who will be in the majority in the House in the next Congress. So stay with CNN. We'll be right back with more.
And we're back with a CNN projection in the battle for control of the U.S. House of Representatives. CNN can now project that Democrat Laura Gillen will defeat embattled Republican incumbent Anthony D'Esposito in New York's 4th congressional district. That's a flip for Democrats. There have not been a lot of those. Here's where it leaves the balance of power. Democrats have 196 House seats. They've picked up 4. Republicans have 210 House seats. They've picked up 6. 29 seats remain uncalled. Either party needs 218 seats to control the U.S. House of Representatives. CNN already projected that Republicans will control the U.S. Senate.
Right now, we're awaiting more results from dozens of uncalled races that will ultimately determine control of the House of Representatives. And tonight, sources say the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, is telling his fellow Democrats the battle for the majority is still alive, even as the party trails in some key races right now. Our chief congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is with me here in the Situation Room. Manu, where does the fight for control of the House stand right now?
Yeah, Democrats believe there's a path to the majority, but it's pretty clear it's a complicated path, and right now Republicans are favored to hold a narrow majority. Let's look at this right now. They need 218 seats to control the United States House. That's a majority of the House. Right now, the Republicans are projected to win 210, Democrats 196. The pickups, 6 pickups, 4 pickups for Democrats. So Democrats need a net of 4 pickups coming into the night in order to be in the majority. There are 29 seats remaining to be projected. So what is the magic number Democrats must get right now? 6 seats. 6 seats. So that may seem achievable, Wolf, but when you drill down a little bit further into where they are leading, Democrats are leading in 2 Republican districts. That's it right now. And here's the other problem for them. Republicans are leading in 2 Democratic districts. So that's one of the complications. Here's another complication. There are districts that Joe Biden carried back in 2020 in which now Democrats are trailing. That would be clear pickup opportunities, particularly in California. That's where you look in the northern part of the state. John Duarte, he's an incumbent Republican congressman. He's up by 3,100 votes against Democrat Adam Gray, 51.4% to 48.6% in that seat. But there's still 48% of the vote that has been counted. So there's a lot more vote still coming in. And then I'll go further down south in the state, Mike Garcia in the Los Angeles area, the Republican incumbent, up by 4,700 votes against the Democrat George Whitesides. This is another district that Joe Biden carried in 2020 by double digits. Democrats had hoped to flip this seat. Right now, the Republican ahead. But again, 66% of the vote in. So still more vote coming in. Another California district in which Democrats were hoping to turn around. Ken Calvert, a longtime incumbent Republican congressman, he is ahead against his Democratic challenger, Will Rollins, by 6,700 votes. And still, about 2/3 of the vote in. We expect more to come in the days ahead. And Democrats and Republicans are watching this race incredibly closely. Freshman Republican incumbent Juan Ciscomani from Arizona, the 6th congressional district there. He is ahead by just 1,600 votes in this race, 49.1% to 48.6%, a razor-thin margin at the moment, 64% in. So, Wolf, we may not know the final margin here for a number of days. Republicans are feeling confident. They're planning to be in the majority. We don't know that quite yet, which is why Democrats believe they have some hope they can get in the majority, but it's going to be a complicated path to get. We're going to watch.
CNN has some brand new projections we can now make in the House. Democrats have just picked up a seat in a hotly contested race in New York 19. Democrat Josh Riley has taken down Republican there, Mark Molinaro. Those are some seats that House Republicans were concerned about. I should note there are 2 Republican holds that we are learning about tonight. In Nebraska, too, Don Bacon has held on to his seat there that was in jeopardy. And in Pennsylvania's 10th district, Scott Perry has also held on. I should note there are 2 Democrat holds in California and Oregon. Right now, that leaves the balance of power in the House of Representatives. Republicans, 212 seats, Democrats, 199. However, 24 races are still uncalled tonight as we are waiting to see what that margin in the House is going to look like.
Breaking overnight, CNN projects Donald Trump will win Nevada. Not a state he needed to win the presidency, obviously, but this morning it is further evidence of how broad and decisive Trump's election victory is. He is now 1 state away from winning all 7 battleground states. Arizona is now the only state yet to be called, and this hour, Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris there by over 155,000 votes.
All right, breaking news. Republican Jeff Hurd right now projected to win the House seat in Colorado against Democrat Adam Frisch. As the balance of power in the House is still up for grabs at this hour, it's a crucial question because that would be a clean sweep if Republicans take it. Democrats right now have 202 seats. Republicans have 213. You need 218 to get the majority. But the way this would work for Democrats, this is a really, really heavy lift. Democrats need 16 seats. So to eke out a win, they have to hold 10 that they currently have that are still outstanding, and they have to also flip 6. Republicans, much easier path. They just have to hold 5, and it's theirs. So let's go to Harry Enton at the Magic Wall. Harry, what this math boils down to is that there are still 20 uncalled House races to watch. So how much narrower is a potential path for Democrats getting?
Yeah, it's getting late in the day for them. You know, you mentioned that CNN has projected 213 seats for the Republicans, 202 for the Democrats. We can also add in the seats where Democrats and Republicans are ahead at this point. And this is simply going in the wrong direction for Democrats. When we were looking at the data last night, Republicans were ahead in 222 seats. Democrats were ahead in 213 seats, and Republicans are now ahead in an extra seat. So let's take a look at some of those uncalled races. You know, one of the reasons right now that Republicans actually have gained a seat in terms of how many seats they're ahead, and we'll go into the great state of Arizona. We'll go down to the southeast corner in the Tucson suburbs. Look, this is a flip from yesterday. Kirsten Engel was ahead yesterday. Now she's behind by nearly 1,600 votes. So again, this is a seat that's going in the wrong direction. We can go to the great state of California, right? This is a place that obviously a lot of uncalled races at this particular point. And one of the seats I was looking at yesterday was this one outside of San Jose. And what we see here is the Republican was ahead yesterday. The Republican's still ahead today. The margin really hasn't shifted very much. Another one, this is one I always look at, the 22nd district, because the ballots get counted. It takes a very, very long time in California. David Valadao, oftentimes you're waiting on days, weeks, sometimes even nearly a month after the election. Look, we got more of the vote in than we had yesterday. We're now up to 55%. His lead's actually gone up a little bit, Aaron, gone up a little bit. And then finally, you know, you go out, let's say we're going to go all the way up to the northwest part of the country, although in this particular diagram, it's just off the map, Alaska. This margin really hasn't shifted at all, right? Mary Patola, who's the Democratic incumbent, trailing. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, there's instant runoff voting that goes on in Alaska. So if you don't reach 50%, then we'll redistribute the third-party candidates. But the bottom line, Nick Begich, awfully close to 50%. At this hour, it's getting very late for Democrats, Aaron.
Getting very late. All right. So also Senate races that haven't been called. We do know the balance of power in the Senate, but those seats and who gets them can be so crucial. So where do things stand?
Yeah, let's start off in Pennsylvania, right? Because we haven't called it, but Dave McCormick has obviously been leading Bob Casey here. His lead right now, again, it's higher than it was yesterday. It's higher than it was yesterday. You know, we've been waiting on votes from Philadelphia. Now we're up to 92% of the vote in. And Bob Casey simply put, this is not the type of margin Bob Casey needs to win. Of course, if the race is within half a point, you can have an automatic recount there. So that's part of the reason we haven't called it there. Well, let's go to some good news for Democrats. We'll go out to Nevada. Look, Jackie Rosen, the Democratic incumbent, despite the fact that Trump is leading in the state, she does have a lead right now, a pretty significant one, a little bit more than a percentage point, with 97% of the vote in. Finally, let's go to Arizona, down here in the Southwest. Ruben Gallego has consistently led Kari Lake. But here's the thing, that lead has gotten consistently smaller. So if we go back, and we go back a little bit long ago when 52% of the vote is, his lead was 6 points. Then we go in and we look, okay, 55% of the vote, his lead was then about a little less than 5 points. And then we look right now, and what do we see? His lead is down to just a little bit more than a point. This is a race that I thought Gallego was going to win. I still think he's going to win. But the bottom line is there's a reason we haven't called it, because that margin has been shrinking, Aaron.
Wow. That is incredible. And you also think about how much ticket splitting was going on in so many places, or people were willing to do that. What that really says, really underscoring Trump's victory. All right. Thank you so much, Harry.
Thank you.
Out front now, one of the few Democrats who did flip a seat in the House, Congresswoman-elect Laura Gillen of New York. Now, she beat incumbent Republican Congressman Anthony D'Esposito by 2 percentage points. And this is her first national TV interview since being declared the winner. So, Congresswoman-elect, I appreciate your taking the time. You know, you hear Harry lay out where we are right now in terms of the House. We still don't formally know the balance of power. Why?
CNN can now project that incumbent Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen will survive a challenge from Republican Sam Brown. This leaves the balance of power in the Senate, 52 Republicans and 46 Democrats, with 2 races still outstanding.
It's that sound again. At this hour, we have 2 new projections that we can make in House races. CNN now projects that Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez will win in Washington State's 3rd congressional district. That was a tough seat that she was holding on to. Also, Democrat Mark Takano holds on to his seat in California's 39th. Checking in on the balance of power as it stands right now in the House, which is what everyone is watching so closely, CNN can project Republicans are just 5 seats away from having the majority. Right now, Democrats currently sit at 204, Republicans at 213. Meanwhile, over in the Senate, Republicans now have the majority there, as CNN can now project Democratic incumbent Jackie Rosen has defeated her Republican challenger Sam Brown in Nevada. Right now, that leaves two key Senate seats still up for grabs. That includes in Pennsylvania, one that we've been watching very closely. Republican challenger Dave McCormick is taking on and ahead right now of Democrat incumbent Bob Casey. Meanwhile, over in Arizona, the Democrat there, Ruben Gallego, ahead of Republican Kari Lake. That lead, though, has been shrinking with a lot more votes still to be counted. We're watching all the numbers very closely.
You are in the CNN Newsroom. I'm Pamela Brown in Washington, and we begin tonight with a CNN projection. CNN now projects that Donald Trump will win the state of Arizona. This is the last race of the presidential race for CNN to call, and gives him a final total of 312 electoral votes. We're following breaking news tonight. CNN now able to project that former President Trump will win the state of Arizona and the state's 11 electoral votes. Arizona is the final state to be projected in the 2024 presidential election. Mr. Trump now has 312 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris has 226. And we also have another CNN projection for you right now. In Arizona, Democrat Greg Stanton has won re-election. He beats Republican Kelly Cooper in Arizona's 4th district, a critical hold for Democrats as they try to win the House after losing the White House and Senate to Republicans.
You are in the CNN Newsroom. I'm Jessica Dean in New York, and we start with breaking news, a CNN projection for you right now, and this is one Republicans will be pleased about. Gabe Evans has flipped a seat in Colorado's Denver suburbs. Evans is a U.S. Army veteran and former police officer, and days after the election, of course, we're still waiting on the results for 16 House races. But again, this was one that both parties were watching, and Republicans have effectively been able to flip that seat. Let's get right to CNN's senior data reporter, Harry Enton. Harry, what's it mean for the House?
And what does it mean for the House? It means that Republicans are right on the doorstep of maintaining control of the House of Representatives. Look where we are now. Projections, CNN, 214. Of course, you need 218 to maintain control. Democrats all the way down at 205. Now, if you look at the seats where the parties are ahead, at this particular point, Republicans are ahead in 222 seats, Democrats in just 213. Now, I want to sort of go into that Colorado district that you were just talking about and sort of just point out the problem here. As you mentioned, Gabe Evans flipped it. 97% of the vote is in so far. And one of the real issues that Democrats have sort of just had is if you go back just a little bit in time, right? If you look when 71% of the precincts were in fact, Evans was trailing. And he, of course, in the later vote count, was able to take the lead. And so this is one of the big problems that sort of Democrats have had in this entire sort of trying to somehow find the seats to get to 218. Another sort of example of that, a district where right now they're behind right now in Arizona's 6th congressional district. You see the incumbent Republican is ahead by 1,230 votes. Now, again, if you were to go back in time, if you were to go back when there was 59% of the vote in, again, the Democrat was ahead there. So basically what you're seeing in these types of situations is Democrats keep trying to say, okay, is the math for us there? And then each time you think the math may be there for them, what you end up finding out is that the math actually just sort of goes away for them. Now, where could Democrats potentially pick up seats? Well, let's go out to California, right? Let's go out to California. There are a few districts that I'm sort of keeping my eye out there. So we'll go right here. This is a district that I think they have some shot in. Look at this. In California's 13th district, 57% of the vote is in. The Democrat right now is just about 2.5 points behind. Adam Gray is only about 2.5 points behind. Another district I'm looking in is this one. This is the 22nd district. This is a district that always takes forever to sort of count its votes. David Valadao, the longtime Republican incumbent, he's ahead now by 7 points. But again, just 71% of a vote is in. And finally, you know, if we were to go, let's say we're going to go to Southern California. I like going to Southern California, all right? Let's see if I can click this district. There, we just lost. There we go. Sometimes it gets a little interesting. California's 45th district, Orange County, big chunk of that. Michelle Steele, the incumbent Republican, up by 6,900 votes. But again, just 79% of the vote in, and she's up, you know, about 2.5 points. So again, there are opportunities for Democrats, Jessica, but the bottom line is at this particular hour, the math is thin and the hour is late for Democrats. Republicans look on their way to maintaining House control.
Yeah, and the Senate, more cut and dry, though. We know that there will clearly be a Republican majority.
Yes, we know that there's going to be a Republican majority. And in fact, what do we have that is basically uncalled on the Senate side? Well, there's one seat that Republicans are heading and one seat Democrats are heading. And at this particular point, I want to go down to the one where I think we really have at least a little bit of doubt here. But Ruben Gallego against Kari Lake, of course, very controversial in a state that Donald Trump easily carried. But Ruben Gallego is ahead right now by a little bit less than 2 percentage points. This race got a little bit closer as we sort of gone down the stretch and more vote came in. But Gallego has been able to stretch his lead out. So at this particular point, despite the fact in the presidential race, look how far Donald Trump is ahead in Arizona. He's up by 6 points. But Ruben Gallego is running way, way, way ahead of Kamala Harris. And at this particular point, this looks like a hold for the Democrats. Remember, Kyrsten Sinema, the Democratic incumbent, turned independent. But it looks like Kari Lake at this point, she's behind the 8 ball. We haven't called it yet, but at this point, Gallego looking pretty gosh darn good, Jessica.
We have a major projection in a key Senate race. CNN could project that Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego will beat Republican Kari Lake for one of Arizona's Senate seats. That gives Democrats another seat in the Senate, a seat previously filled by independent Kyrsten Sinema. The Republicans are very much still in power there. Gallego has been in Congress for 10 years. Lake previously ran for Arizona governor in 2022, narrowly losing to Governor Katie Hobbs. She's a controversial figure whose election denials haunted her Senate run. This now means there will be 52 Republicans and 47 Democrats in the Senate. The Pennsylvania Senate race is still outstanding.
Some breaking news for you this hour, as CNN has just projected that the Republican David Valadao will hold on to his California House seat. Obviously, we are watching all of these final races very closely to see the majority on Capitol Hill. I want to get right to CNN's Harry Enten. And Harry, can you just first bring us up to speed now that we have this win tonight in California, holding on to that seat? How close are Republicans to having control of the House of Representatives?
Slowly but surely, they're making their way to the magic 218 seats, Caitlin. Look where the Republicans are right now. We projected they have won 216 seats, only 207 for Democrats, of course, 218 being the magic number. But, of course, how many seats are they ahead in? At this particular point, Republicans are ahead in 222 seats, a little bit more than the 218, but not so much. Democrats at 213. But I would not be surprised if the number for Republicans actually end up with is actually a little bit smaller. Why? I want you to take you out to California, where, of course, we just called that race. Let's take a look at some of the uncalled races. First off, let's take a look at this race. California's 13th district, just a little bit north of that race we just called. John Duarte only up by 2 points, still 73% of the estimated vote is actually reporting, still 27% still out. That margin has been closing, Caitlin. It's been closing. There's also another race in California where the margin has been closing. Let's go down to Southern California. We're going to go right here to an Orange County seat. Michelle Steele at this particular point, look at that. Her advantage is only 2,272 votes. It's less than a point. The margin has been tighter and tighter and tighter, Caitlin. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if Republicans actually end up a little bit closer to 220 than 222 seats.
Right now, CNN has a major projection to bring you. In the battle for control of Congress, 1 week and 1 day after Election Day, CNN can now project that Republicans will hold on to control of the House of Representatives. This is based on projections that we've made combined with an analysis of results from House races across the country. In Arizona's 6th district, we've determined that Congressman Juan Ciscomani will win re-election. And in California's 41st, Ken Calvert, the Republican incumbent, will also win re-election. That gives Republicans the magic number of 218 seats needed to control the chamber.
All right, there's breaking news we're following. Pennsylvania's Democratic Senator Bob Casey has just conceded in his race against Republican Dave McCormick. That means the next U.S. Senate will have 53 Republican members, and 47 members who caucus with the Democrats.
All right, breaking overnight, I want to show you something that election nerds were all paying attention to last night. This is California's 13th congressional district. And you can see last night, Adam Gray, the Democrat, went ahead as they are counting votes. He is ahead now by 182 votes over the incumbent Republican John Duarte. Now, Republicans are going to control the House of Representatives, but this is sort of one of the only pieces of good news that Democrats have had in this election process, and it's still going on right now. Unclear whether or not Gray, the Democrat, will maintain this lead. They still have a few thousand votes more to count, but, you know, weeks after the election, when they're still counting, he just inched ahead there.
The Republican House majority is shaping up to be the smallest in nearly 100 years. CNN called two more races last night, both decided by less than 1,000 votes. Democrat Derek Tran ousted Republican Congresswoman Michelle Steele in California, and Republican Congressman Marriott Miller Meeks eked out a win in Iowa. There's one race left, that's in California, where Democrat Adam Gray leads incumbent Republican John Duarte by 190 votes. Now, if Gray wins, the House will be divided 220 to 215. And Republicans are losing 3 of those seats because of resignations to join the Trump cabinet. Now, that'll give House Democrats a lot of leverage if they stick together. As lead leader Hakeem Jeffries posted on X, he said, there is no mandate to jam far-right policies down the throats of the American people. He said House Democrats will not let it happen. My reporters are back. How do we see Democrats? Because, you know, when we look at the first iteration of Trump, it was resistance. House Republicans this week will return to Washington with ambitious plans to push through an aggressive agenda starting in January. But there's just one problem. They may have an even thinner majority than they have right now. One race is still outstanding in California's 13th congressional district, where Democrat Adam Gray is clinging to the narrowest of leads in a bid to knock off GOP incumbent John Duarte.
All right, welcome back. It's nearly official. Come January, House Republicans could be governing with a brutally slim 220 to 215 majority. California Democrat Adam Gray currently leads Republican incumbent John Duarte by a couple hundred votes in the last remaining House seat to be called after a month of vote counting. Gray's expected win leaves Speaker Mike Johnson with a thin majority that is squeezed further by Donald Trump's selection of several House Republicans to join his administration.